All right, welcome back to the party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How's everybody doing tonight? So glad to see you, especially a big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to check out the party, even though you missed the best part, the live party. But no worries. You will still very much have a good time here. Just make sure you're here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you will never miss another party ever again. I want to say a big thank you to the sponsor of this stream, my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it is the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. What is good? We got Trey in the building. What is going on? Welcome. So, a very interesting story that came about. I didn't even know that this was really a thing that could be done, but apparently Tim Pool and Bill Ottman, the founder of Minds, which is another social media platform, centered around free speech, are suing the entire state of California. So it's the two of them, and they brought their lawyer on, and a very cool concept even. But the actual things that they're talking about in the lawsuit really kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that all of this was going on. So it's definitely going to be, I don't know if we're going to go through the whole thing, but I definitely want to check it out and talk about it with you guys. We got Mr. Zig in the building. Welcome. How are you doing, brother? Glad to see you. All right, so the culture war, guys. Let's dive right in. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
We're suing California because we're culture warriors, I guess. Welcome to the show, everybody. What's going on, guys?
Hey.
Who are you? What are you doing?
Hey, good morning. James Lawrence with Envisage Law.
So that's a
I'm
lawyer
there. I'm an attorney.
Yeah, I'm Bill Ottman, founder of Minds.com. And yeah, we're suing California over a censorship law.
So Bill Ottman, you guys probably know, many of you may know, because he's the founder of Minds.com, which is a very large social media platform that we use and a lot of people have used. And it's got a cryptocurrency involved, but also you've been on the show a bunch talking about censorship and other stuff like that. And then this lawyer fella over here, very successful in fighting against unjust censorship. You want to give a quick context as to your past victories?
Yeah, thanks. So I had the...
So yeah, they're suing the state of California, but that is what they're going to get into. So we're going to find out a little bit about who this guy is, and yeah. So I slowed it down. I didn't realize that it was that fast. But yeah, they are suing the state of California based on censorship stuff. So let's let them tell us what is going on.
The opportunity to represent Alex Berenson in his path-breaking case against Twitter.
So if you're not familiar, real quick, Alex Berenson I don't even remember what the tweet was, but tweeted something that was pretty much innocuous and then got banned and took the case to court and won and got unbanned without having to delete anything or anything like that.
It's the first case that I'm aware of where a deplatformed user of any social media platform successfully sued a platform and got reinstated. And that happened in July of last year. So I do a number of other things. Currently, I also represent Jamie Rogozinski in his lawsuit against, who's the founder of Wall Street Bets, in his lawsuit against
Wall Street
Reddit
Bets. Shout out to
platforming from that website as well.
Yeah, how come these tech companies are such, I'll try to avoid swearing, but why are they such bad people, you know?
I mean, the ideology has seeped into the terms.
Yup. And this is something, we
That's
talk
right.
about all the time, with things being, just creeping into every aspect of life. So even on the platforms where we're trying to have conversations about what is political, what is good, what is bad, whatever, the rules around those conversations have already been biased by how the rules are written.
Yes.
I don't know. I kind of feel like a lot of it may be ideological, like maybe with Twitter and Twitter's past leadership.
Yep.
But a lot of it seems to be just parasitic leeching. You know, these companies just want to make money, don't care, plow through whatever gets in their way. You know what I mean?
It seems like they're alienating a huge percentage of the population, and it would arguably be bad for business in certain sense. I mean, you are constantly talking about get woke, go broke. I mean,
but I wonder if they're looking at it
who
like, we'll lose X dollars if we do this, we'll lose X plus Y dollars if we don't. So we may as well just accept the loss and then just plow through or something. But anyway, let's talk about what's going on. So I guess the big news, especially for this show we're doing, is that California has a law, which is, I'm going to avoid swearing for now, because like YouTube's got rules where it's like, don't swear in the first minute or something. So we'll keep the swearing to a minimum for the time being. But it's BS. It's basically it basically is literally putting pressure on these companies to effectively censor, create unjust policies. I think it outright violates the First Amendment. So that's the news. We're suing California. Okay.
I guess they're still streaming too.
Let's start with this, and then we'll get into the bigger picture with all the tech stuff. So, what's this law, and why are we suing?
Yeah, so I'll just give the audience an overview. So this statute, AB 587, was passed by the California legislature, and it really does two things. One, it imposes a requirement on covered platforms, which would include, at the very least, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, among others. But it imposes a requirement on those platforms to have terms of service that require content moderation at some level. Okay, that's point one.
Okay.
Point two is
we need moderation. All right.
The law requires these platforms to submit periodic reports to the California Attorney General's office regarding actions that the platforms have taken to police several categories of content, including, among others, hate speech and racism, misinformation and disinformation, and extremism and radicalization.
And we all know how very specific those words are. And that is exactly what should be enshrined into law, right? Really vague words that can be obfuscated semantically. I see where they're going.
Those are terms in the statute that are undefined and aren't anchored to any kind of basis for the regulated parties to understand what their obligations are under the statute, which is highly problematic. But to your point, Tim, the statute also has the effect of incentivizing these platforms to engage in censorship across these various categories because, as Governor Newsom announced in his signing statement with respect to the law, the aim of it is to prevent or to have the state of California say hate doesn't have a home here.
Hate doesn't have a home here. This woke mentality about how desperately they need to control words. I'm just flabbergasted that this is still an argument. This is still a thing that people are trying to do. Like that failed. That failed. You got enough push in general in society, but people have freedom of speech. How do you sue the state about what a private company has put in their terms and services? So that's not what they're suing over. He was just making the comment that in the terms of service, without the law, the people who work at these companies are already doing the thing that this law is going to enshrine. So this, from what I understand from just going through it before, and again, they're going to go through the whole thing, but from what I understand, there is verbiage in the bill or the law or whatever, like, the words he was just saying about how they can censor extremism or they can censor radicalism. Well, what does that mean? And so if we know that they already are ideologically biased in the boardrooms and at the top, then they can use these vague words to censor anything they don't like and call it extremism or misinformation, disinformation. And they're already doing that. But now it looks like California is looking to put in a law that protects the companies from doing that. I remember we brought up the guy in the beginning who got banned for no reason, and he won the lawsuit. It sounds like this law is there to combat that.
And that has troubling speech implications. Those are problems.
It's an overt and very obvious First Amendment violation.
Yep.
It's yes, and again, the end game, if you want to kind of look more broadly, is there are going to be certain platforms that are going to submit reporting to the Attorney General of California that are going to be good corporate citizens. They're going to be taking action across these various categories, perhaps in sufficient number and quantity and timing. And then there are going to be other platforms perhaps that are lagging. And the end game there is to what we've already seen, right? With respect to the reforms that Elon Musk has tried to make on Twitter, an attempt to paint those that aren't taking an aggressive approach to these issues as pariahs and as problems and as hotbeds of fill in the blank, hatred, misinformation, and so on.
When did this law pass?
It was passed last year, and its provisions went into effect on January 1st of this year, and the reporting requirement will kick in January 1st of 2024. But of course, the regulated entities are going to have to start taking steps now,
spending money
to comply.
And again, we're not against moderation. Like we're open to,
So before he goes into that, this is a good point. But yeah, Trey, that makes sense because I was about to use their own logic against them. Exactly. It's the idea is not that it's in the terms of service. It's the idea that the government is saying that you can't say this, that, or the other by virtue of using vague words. That then these people can say, well, it's free speech, but it says any kind of extremism. And you're the fastest guitar player. That's extreme. Obviously, I'm using a silly example there. But yeah, that's exactly what it's about. And so for right now, Mr. Zig, that is where the law is coming down from. And I imagine that like many liberal and, well, I'll say leftist policies, they start in places like Seattle or California, but then they spread to the rest of the country. So regardless of whether that's the case or not, if this is the first state that's really trying to do that, then it makes sense to go after the state that's actually doing that to prevent other states from wanting to do the same thing. And so again, they're getting into the whole thing of what exactly is the law and what exactly is the lawsuit. I know they're kind of coming from a little bit of a confusing place, but they break it all down.
We try to have a First Amendment aligned content policy, and the reality is that disinformation, misinformation, hate, extremism. I mean, extremism about what? You could be an extreme skater. You could be like, you can't put the word extremism with no definition in a law. And one way.
That's the point. You can't use these vague words, at least when, there are a lot of vagaries in legislation in general. But at this point, we can see very easily how, with all the semantic obfuscation we see in society and political discourse, that if you give a little wiggle room and you say extremism that isn't well defined, it isn't a set of actions, it isn't a series of words, it's just a thing. And so you can slap that onto whatever, and now you get banned because you were extreme this, extreme that. And it's not even necessarily about politics. It could be about, like we're talking about, this stuff is creeping into every aspect of our society. So you may be a completely non-political person, but, he just brought up the example of extreme skateboarder. Those are extreme sports. I brought up being a guitar player. And yes, we're being facetious, but also not.
Way to go about it is just to only ever report Antifa and be like, here's what we've done. Here's the far left. Here's what they're doing. And they're going to be like, oh, well, what about these other groups? What other groups? And be like, oh, we don't consider that to be extremism.
We don't consider that to be extremism. So while somebody who is just saying, I like Donald Trump, Oh, well, that's a MAGA extremist. But somebody could be an Antifa saying, let's go specifically and do the this, that, and the other. And we're like, oh, well, we agree with that. So that's not extremism. That's the core of the issue.
Like because they're going to try, they try and claim that like libertarians are far right or whatever. What? No, that's not extremism. I mean, if you can define it yourself. But I think the obvious thing is that when the government intervenes and tells a private business to regulate speech or create pressures that will result in any kind of speech regulation, that is just like plainly, and I don't understand how they thought this would fly in the first place. I kind of feel like this is a rubber stamp lawsuit. I mean, like, they'll try and fight it. Of course, it's California. They may get a favorable judge. But I mean, when can the government be like, we hereby impose speech regulations on corporations?
Well, that's the other point, too. Getting a liberal judge is that, again, bringing on this whole thing that it's spreading, that wokeness is spreading into everything. You can get an entire courtroom that doesn't see how wrong this is because they see extremism as, the one thing that is bad. I mean, in general, I think we would agree that extremism is bad. The problem is, what are we defining as extremism?
That's just a violation of the First Amendment, plainly and obviously.
Well, to your point, I mean, a court in New York, a federal district court in New York, enjoined New York's law, which is similar in some ways, which required reporting regarding platforms and defined platforms very, very broadly in that case, who for needing to take action against hateful conduct, which they defined as, among other things, inciting violence against protected categories of people.
Hey, we got Dan Jensen in the building. I think, sir, you are correct. Welcome to the party. Says only here for a short time. That is perfectly fine. But Morty needs a treat, and I think you're right. That's right, guys. Every super chat comes with a treat for this cute little puppy. Oh, thank you, Dan. Let me get you in the banner here. The sponsor of the stream is The Highest Donation, and right now we got Dan with DDK 17, which is about just under $250. Thank you very, very, very much.
And of course, we've seen how that rhetoric has been used in the context of stochastic terrorism, which is a concept that
Have you guys heard that before? Stochastic terrorism?
To its logical conclusion would mean the end of free speech in America and also the end of freedom of the press.
And at least they defined hate in the New York law. They're not even defining any of these words at all in the California, which is honestly lazy of them to have not done that.
But yeah, you're
Hey, we got Scuba Doo in the building. Welcome to the party. Welcome. Very glad you are here. We are just checking out. Yeah, California, the state. They are suing the state of California for impeding on the First Amendment through big tech. And it's a little crazy.
You're right. There aren't any definitions of these arguably very ambiguous terms, but nothing is ambiguous about the potential consequences of violating the statute, which are fines that could amount up to $15,000 a day.
Whoa! $15,000 a day. Wait, for the people or for the companies? Maybe that's for the companies. That if there's something going on, because that's the other thing. If it's the legislation of the state that this can be said, that can't be said, so on and so forth. Now there is no discretion. There is no room for discretion in the social media terms of service because it's the law. And so again, even if they're not specifically trying to be biased, they might say, oh wow, well, with all this MAGA stuff, this is way too much. Meanwhile, not even seeing that there's Antifa posting this, that, and the other. It's just. And then when you're talking about $15,000 a day, I'm going to assume that's on the company for keeping up these posts that would be defined as extremism or any of those things. Now they're going to talk about a ban hammer. They are really, really going to, mess things up. Scooby-Doo says Cali laws and culture are way too left for my centrist MS. Yeah, I mean, I think that there at least used to be space for the disaffected liberal. I was just having this conversation with Dr. Evil Genius about being, about Tim and being the disaffected liberal, when really we're basically just conservatives at this point. It's not necessarily like the conservative platform and my personal platform are not the same. There's a lot of similarities, but it's just the camps that have been created are wokeness and everything else. And that everything else gets called right-wing, conservative, this, that, whatever. So, yeah, I mean, I totally feel you, Scooby-Doo. Totally feel you.
If the platforms that are at issue do not comply and do not bend the knee to the censorship regime.
Yeah, so so now, if there is something that the company doesn't like, let's use Twitter. If there's something that Twitter doesn't want as per their terms of service, then that's, between the user and Twitter. But now, when the government comes in and says, no, it is against the law for you not to take down this post under penalty of $15,000 a day, then that is going to give the platforms a much bigger reason to want to be more careful and censor even more than they already are.
The reporting is extreme too. Like they want clear analytics of all the reports of hate, misinformation, like these are extensive data sets that are required, multiple times a year.
That's right. So
it's a major cost on the business too.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take the speech issue out of it. It's a burdensome regulation on private businesses who are
everything the government does is a burdensome regulation on private businesses.
Are now going to have to hire employees and get staff together to Bill's point, to create reporting on ambiguous terms, even if they could do the work.
And it would be one thing if this law was just saying, listen, you have to have terms of service and you have to, report it once in a while. But they chose to pick these 6 words or how that happen. Like they're arbitrary. Yep. I mean, they're very specifically chosen words, but they don't. Why don't they choose other words? Why don't they choose drugs, illegal? Like there's so many other categories of content that they could have.
Because it's political.
It's political. Yeah.
You know what has me worried is that conversations like this are particularly esoteric, hard for the average person to follow.
That's what I'm here for, guys, because he's right. This is very amorphous in like what exactly are we talking about? What exactly is the plan? But here to resurrect the second coming of common sense.
It's easy when you see a video on TikTok of some woman in a gym complaining about men and be like, hey, here's a cultural issue. This weird, here's an artifact of the culture war. You got these stories where these women are in gyms and they're like, excuse me, are you looking at me? And the guys are like, what? And then the woman drops the barbell or whatever on her foot and she's screaming and then everyone laughs. Stories like that. Or there's one that went viral where this woman got kicked out. Those are so easy for the average person to understand. Like, hey, there's something clearly wrong with the way our culture is developing. But stuff like this is extremely hard to understand. Most people don't even know it happened. And this will probably have one of the biggest, if not the biggest impact on whether or not you can even talk about the other issues.
That's exactly the point. The point is, again, just to underline it, that if the government comes in and puts even more pressure on these platforms that are already squeezing down on censorship, it's only going to make things worse.
So the difficulty here is, how do we get a message like this? Like, hey, guys, California is trying to do one of the most egregious violations of the First Amendment we've seen in decades or more. And we need people to understand and care about this element of the culture war fight.
Yep. I mean, seeing the Newsom and others in California, their rhetoric about hate is alarming. Like that is a cultural media artifact that is kind of, can you explain that? What specifically what they both said and explain Banta.
Attorney General Banta is the chief and law enforcement officer of the state of California, and it is to his office that these reports have to be made. to your question about hate, yeah, I mean the governor, I think, was very candid in the way he described the effect of this law and the goal of this law. It is not merely to provide consumers with more transparency about how decision making is done within these platforms.
And that's how they're going to present it, that this is all about transparency and this is for you. We're doing this to help you. And the people, the people who live in California and believe in California are so down with that. They believe that the government is there for it's their savior. It is their savior. That is what happens with dogmatic thinking.
It is about curbing the spread of hate in California, and the state of California taking a stand against hate, which again is an undefined term. I mean, even legislators who supported this measure were out in front of the press with terms like "stop hate" blazoned on front of the podiums that they were standing behind. So
it's weaponized. Right. They're weaponizing the word hate.
Right. And
what's another word for weaponizing a word? What's another phrase that maybe comes up on this channel all the time? Might it be semantic obfuscation? That is exactly right. They are weaponizing the word hate along with very many other words. This is what I keep telling you guys about. Semantic obfuscation.
And to return to Bill's point, we mentioned the categories, and there are, as he pointed out, some notable omissions. I mean, child pornography, for example, is not listed.
Sorry, I remember that was coming, and I was hoping I could get the censors past that.
In this in this laundry list.
Well, that's actually not surprising at all.
Yeah, you don't need a policy against that.
You don't need a policy. You don't need.
Yeah, that's not surprising at all. They're all like, wait. We definitely need the CP. Don't put anything in there about CP.
Need a policy against that,
but you better not say naughty words.
But again, misinformation and disinformation, and we've seen right. We have seen the way that those two terms in particular have been weaponized against political and ideological enemies in this country.
Guys, can I ask you a huge favor really quick? Just hit that like button. I would really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And that is why this effort, among others, is so important, to draw a line in the sand and say, no further. We're not going down this road.
So we're suing.
Hey, we got Harley Rose in the building. Resident fact checker. Glad to have you. Of course, I was telling you, you already know what we're talking about, that California is getting sued. They have this law that is going to put more, exactly, Dan. Exactly. I'm waiting for that to show up. To put more pressure on these companies to censor.
And we're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're challenging this. So I'm glad to be a part of it, obviously, because we've got to do more than just complain about it on the internet.
Yeah, Mr. Zeg, on point. If Cali wins, it will not be about what you say, but how you say it. And while I thank you so much for the likes, guys, really do appreciate that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This is exactly out of 1994. I mean,
we're complaining about it now, but we're also letting you guys know, like, we're taking action. So then the big question people are probably asking is, what do we want? What do we win if we win?
Yeah, good
question. That's a good framing. What do we win if we win? That is something that I didn't necessarily get a full answer on. So this is what their bottom line is. What do we win if we win?
We will be asking for is an injunction from the court that will enjoin the Attorney General's office and the other responsible state actors in California from enforcing this. And that will be the relief that we will seek in the litigation.
So
it's basically just making sure that they can't make the censorship online even worse than it is, with the weight of the entire government behind them.
But there's an interesting view, right? So we've got Bill here who runs a big social media platform, and then you've got me who produces content like this for social media platforms. And there's a few big issues. One, I mean, you guys at Minds will be directly impacted because the law targets you. for me as the producer, I'll be directly impacted because it indirectly targets me, because now what's going to happen is these companies are going to be like, well, it's ill-defined, but look, if Newsom is threatening some kind of fine, unless we take action against their political rivals, it's I'll put it this way. I remember talking to the guys over at Patreon. They had suspended some dude, terminated his account, destroyed his income. And the CEO was like, Tim, if I don't ban this one guy, hundreds of thousands of people lose their jobs. Or it was like tens of thousands of people lose their jobs. If we don't comply with this regulation and this guy is allowed on the platform, everyone loses their account. So the idea is, I hate to do it, but I got to ban this one guy to save the 99 guys.
You specifically spoke with Conte?
This was years ago. Yeah, years ago.
Mm-hmm.
This was because he had banned who was banned first? Was it Lawrence Southern? I think Lawrence Southern was banned first. Mm-hmm. And then we were like, yo, like to abruptly destroy someone's income. And
really quick, Harley says, I agree that disinformation should have some regulation. I tangentially agree with that as well. Misinformation, however, should not be censored because it takes away discourse and does not allow for teaching. Interesting. Okay, so because again, the whole point here is that these words are not well defined. What do you see? And there's a question to everybody, but specifically to Harley, what do you see as the difference specifically between what is disinformation and misinformation?
So this was around the time Lauren Southern had gotten on a boat and she was like waving a flare in the air at one of these migrant human smuggling ships. Mm-hmm. The left tries to call them refugee ships, but like when a boat goes to another country and picks people up.
It was a migrant ship. Are you familiar with the Lauren Southern thing? I can give it a short recap, but I mean, never mind. He's doing
brings them back to just trafficking. So, but then they were like, because of that, they were terminating her account or something. They didn't give her any notice. So all of a sudden her income's gone. And they were like, well, too bad.
Come on.
But it caused a huge backlash. Patreon then was then like, okay, we'll never do this again. We'll always make sure to give notice. Then someone dug up like a year-old podcast on a tiny channel from Carl Benjamin. Also, he runs the Lotus Eaters podcast.
Sargon of Akkad.
And he was using a racial slur against racists. What? Basically, the idea was, I'm going to call you what you call them. See how you like it. And they went up. Doesn't matter. He used a slur. Not on Patreon's platform.
Yeah, both were off platform.
Both were off platform. And Carl's video was from a year ago. It got a few thousand views. It was on YouTube, not on Patreon. They banned him anyway. And so this caused a major backlash, and a bunch of large creators left. Jordan Peterson, I think, had left. I don't know if he was on it. Sam Harris.
I mean, Sam Harris defended Carl.
Right.
And talk about La La Land when we talk about Sam Harris now.
Right. He defended Carl. He leaves the platform.
I got a video coming out about Sam Harris this week. Oh man, he is gone. He used to be one of the most respected people that I used to say that if I could have dinner with one person alive or dead, he was in my top two. And then TDS.
I ended up talking with the CEO, and he was basically saying, because there was another issue where this guy, Robert Spencer, had his account deleted, and they said, it was reportedly, I think Patreon said this, MasterCard went to them and said, we will not handle transactions from you unless you get rid of this guy. And so the mentality from Conte, from the CEO was, if I've got 30,000 people who make a living on this platform, and they all rely on it, and we have to get rid of one guy, and if we don't, 30,000 people lose their income, I have no choice. My response was, stop being a fucking pathetic coward and call their bluff.
That's what you got to do. That's exactly what you got to do. And the idea that, MasterCard is not going to step away from all the payment that they're going to get from a platform. They're just trying to negotiate. They're trying to set the rules. And I'm going to let Tim talk about it because I kind of remember what he was saying. But so I'd asked Harley, what is the difference between disinformation and misinformation? She says, disinformation is deliberate and has the intention to deceive and mislead people. Misinformation is from a lack of knowledge or understanding of something. I like that. I like that differentiation. And with this definition, I completely agree with you. No, I don't. I still think disinformation should be allowed. because if it's disinformation, then there should be enough information to supersede that. That is the idea of free speech and the marketplace of ideas. So, I mean, I think disinformation, but according to this, is much more insidious, but still is not enough to determine that we say no disinformation. If you want to lie, there's a reason the phrase buyer beware became a thing. If you're talking to a snake oil salesman and he tells you it's going to cure your this, that, and the other, it's your job to do your research. So, yeah, I mean, it's definitely worse, but I say free speech all the way. Scooby-Doo said, didn't she also cheat on her dude on a boat? I have no idea, and honestly, I don't really care. I don't know about the drama stuff like that, unless it becomes like a big story that actually affects what's going on, like with the Crowder and Daily Wire stuff. That's why I didn't really cover like the Eliza Blue stuff. I'm not really into that that kind of drama. Like, it's not like I was gonna hook up with her anyway, so whatever. And Mr. Zig says propaganda is disinfo. Absolutely.
Tell them, MasterCard, I would like to see how you handle 30,000 unemployed, famous people, celebrities, influencers.
So let me back this up a little bit because I want to get the.
I would like and call their response away. And if we don't, 30,000 people lose their income.
But here, that was the thing that MasterCard was telling, I think it was Twitter, that we have to ban this one person, or 30,000 people are gonna, whatever.
No choice. My response was, stop being a fucking pathetic coward and call their bluff. Stupid. Tell them, MasterCard, I would like to see how you handle 30,000 unemployed, famous people, celebrities, influencers, all of the people with millions of followers each waking up one day to find they have no revenue anymore, and it's your fault. Make my fucking day. And the coward at Patreon said, but I don't want to do this. So he did nothing. So, excuse me, my attitude with all this is, you got to stand up. You got to call them out. If Twitter, if Facebook, if these platforms are presented with this law, they're going to say, look, we really don't want to ban Tim Pool, but if we got to ban one guy to save 100,000, well, then we're going to have to do it. So fuck that. Fire away. Let's get this lawsuit done and stop them from being able to do that.
I love that. So that's why I said some regulation. Media is a great example of why you should have some regulation, or at least liability, for showing disinformation. I think when it comes to establishments, whether it's a news organization or something like that, then absolutely disinformation went from a trusted source, quote unquote. That's a whole other ballgame. So, like, if the New York Times is just putting out blatant lies, we obviously need to be able to correct that. I thought you were just talking about people who were tweeting. So in that sense, I guess we agree.
How did the Patreon lawsuit end up? Because they did get there was a complaint against them, right?
Well, there was the Owen Benjamin thing. I don't remember exactly what happened. That was crazy because the mass arbitration was potentially going to bankrupt the company. I don't know where they went with that.
Owen Benjamin went off the deep end, man. I don't even know what happened. Like, I think I heard of him, like, he's just a comedian. Heard of him from JRE, and then he got really into politics and stuff, and then he went crazy, and I guess he never came back. I'm sure he's still out there doing his thing, but I don't know anybody who listened to him.
I just know that that's the mentality of these companies. I mean, the reality was Jack Conte had all the leverage in the world. He could have gotten the
Jack Conte, CEO of original CEO, or big dog at Twitter, Jack Conte.
Phone with MasterCard and been like, you done fucked up, boy, because I'm going to make a phone call to one of our top podcasts that bring in 100K per month, that have 10 million subscribers. And I'm going to say, hey, you are about to get banned because MasterCard is threatening to pull the plug on the platform. What? Why don't you make a video explaining it? Here's the paperwork they sent us. That one guy makes one video. It ripples across the entire internet. And in 2 seconds, MasterCard's lost 10% market share. Make my day. But these people are all cowards. None of them do it. At least we got Bill Ottman, CEO of Minds, being like, I will sue.
Hey, we got Jimmy Dean in the building. Welcome. Yes, correct. Patreon, not Twitter. I'm getting on them all mixed up. Yes, Jack Conte, creator of Patreon. Thank you for the correction and welcome to the party. Yes, they are in fact suing the state of California over a new bullshit law. Welcome.
And me as just one creator being like, I will also sue. So we may be the little guy in this David versus Goliath, but let's fucking.
I mean, changing policy is our only tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not our only tool, but it's a primary.
Elon Musk in this. I mean, it's been what? When was this bill passed? Almost a year ago.
Yeah, and
oh wow, okay, so it's a bill that was passed a year ago. I was understanding that this bill was being proposed and that it had gone through some preliminary things, but this is a bill that has already gone through.
I think it was passed before he took ownership of Twitter. To your question, I don't know what his position is on this.
All right, Jimmy Dean, in and out. You know how he likes it. Thank you for stopping by, brother. Hey, and drop the like. Very much appreciate that. You have a good night, brother.
Bill, or if he is even aware of it.
Maybe he doesn't know.
But yeah, hopefully this will make him aware.
I guess we will see. But to your point, Tim, I mean, yeah, it takes tenacity, it takes fortitude, it takes courage to stand up and really do the right thing. And that's what this is.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing the right thing. It's speaking truth to power in California.
And usually when you hear somebody say the phrase speaking truth to power, it's in some virtue signaling way that you're not actually speaking truth to power. But if you're suing the state of California in the name of free speech, that is speaking truth to power.
And standing up for free speech and the First Amendment.
Really quick, though, I mean, on Sam Harris, I definitely, anything from 2014 and earlier, Sam Harris was top-notch. Once the idea of Trump and politics got into his brain, you could never listen to another word he said. That's exactly the video that I'm putting out this week, is that he is the most quintessential example of how dogmatic thinking, especially somebody who made their living speaking out against religion, can also become subject to that dogmatic thinking and go literally insane. Mr. Zeg, I'm going to pull this up. It says, yeah, the social media industry needs laws and regulation, especially after this Rona BS and government bodies, etc. Yeah. The question is, though, what kind of regulation? And I think the regulation that they're putting in is not the kind that we want, and the kind that's going to make things even worse than they have been.
We're a media company here at Timcast. We have a bunch of paying members who help support the work to produce media. But I'm almost feeling like we're on the verge of needing to be an activist organization, because it's one thing if we can spread the word to a large audience and let them know about the problem.
Agreed, Harley.
But knowing is just the first step.
Agreed, Harley. The media and advertisers and companies, absolutely, they need to be held liable. A single person doesn't have that impact, and completely agree.
We have tens of thousands of active participants in the stuff that we're doing, and we create an activist component, something like this, that's 100 times more effective.
So actually, yeah, let me real quick. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but this is the Culture War podcast. This is separate from, Tim's regular daily segments, and this obviously isn't the Timcast IRL show. This is a completely separate entity under Timcast that is meant to have more culturally focused discussions rather than talking about the headlines of the day. So this one happens to be a little bit more specific to legislation, but we might be using this this podcast a little bit more in the future, depending on who the guests are. Because like the first one was kind of boring. It was the drummer from some band, and they were just kind of talking about it. I mean, it was a cool dude, but nothing that like really had any meat to it. But so yeah, this is a completely separate entity.
What do we 50, 60 million views per month across our network, mostly on just the content I produce for Timcast, and then to a small degree, the other stuff. That goes a long way in running a business. But what if we were to take those viewers and then also create some kind of active element to it, like stand up for what you believe in? That would have a powerful impact. You look at these leftist organizations that are way smaller. 1,000 people making phone calls, and all of a sudden they're changing policy and they're banning people from events.
Yep.
What?
That's always been a problem of the right, is that for whatever reason, the liberals, Democrats have always been better at messaging. And that is why the dynamic, at least I think, I mean, feel free to disagree, but that is why I think the dynamic of how the left is driving culture and the right is really just acting as a speed bump. You know, a conservative is just somebody who was had liberal views 5-10 years ago.
What if we got to leverage that? We've got to find all of the people who care about the culture war, who care about the stuff that's going on and want the world to be better, to be an active participant in making that phone call, sending that tweet, and sending that email. Because what they'll do is the activists they have organizations that go around collecting postcards, and then one day a member of Congress gets 8,000 postcards on their desk, and they're like, "Yikes! This is a big effort. We better do something about it." The activists will spam phone calls to companies and get people banned. They'll mass spam emails. It's time to play ball. It's time to get in this game.
And I think another aspect of it is that, you know, if you look at the two parties, then the liberals are more likely to be younger. They're more likely to have time on their hands. They're, whereas on the right, they're more likely to be older, and they're more likely to have a lot of other stuff going on. So I think that definitely plays a part in why the left can be so fervent, because that's all they do is just find things to complain about.
Right. If there's a company that's producing a show and they're like, we're going to have Steven Crowder do a backflip live, then the company gets 100,000 emails, but from only 10,000 people. They freak out and think it's a bunch of different people. So what we need people who are actively paying attention to this stuff, who are watching stuff like this, to be the person who's going to send that email and be like, dude, I am not okay with this. Maybe if every single person who watch a show like this would send an email to Disney or to Netflix or to Twitter right now, especially with Elon, you might actually see some larger direct action. So this law is going to impact Twitter. Twitter's got a lot of leverage here. You know, Elon Musk runs Twitter, right? Newsom just convinced Elon to move Tesla back to California.
Really?
Did you guys see that story from a month or so ago?
I did not know.
Crazy.
That.
So now Elon says, I'm also the CEO of Twitter, and if you make me do this, we're not gonna bring manufacturing back.
Yeah, and Twitter is also negotiating with EU and Germany, and they're abiding by those content policies as well, which is kind of problematic in itself. One thing we were talking about earlier, James, was
I hate even hearing his name. Fauci is the worst person I ever.
The indemnification stuff with Elon in the merger. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So I know. Look, let's kind of level set the conversation. Give
right,
people
let's
some
level
context.
set it.
So
context. I love that context. Let's do it. All right.
I'll just give an example. So I represented a doctor from Rhode Island, Dr. Andrew Boston, who was kicked off of Twitter for allegedly violating the 5 strikes rule for COVID misinformation. And
surprise.
What has come out of the Twitter files, some reporting that was done by, I believe, by David Zweig, is that internally, Twitter had reviewed Dr. Boston's account after I wrote a demand letter to the company trying to explain how what he said wasn't violative of any of their policies. By the way, he was reposting and commenting on peer-reviewed scientific literature. I mean, it's the most kind of, and it's no insult to him. I mean, this is dense scientific material that he was trying to discuss, like scientists and researchers do. And yet Twitter banned him under the 5 strike rule. What David Zweig reported out on was that Twitter had internally, subjectively concluded that only one of the 5 strikes were actually valid.
So what happens when the government now has a hand in that?
And yet they banned him anyway, which led me to tweet out to my followers, you couldn't run a lemonade stand like this. You could not engage in this kind of bait and switch and abuse consumers the way Twitter abused Dr. Bostom and get away with it. To your question about what does that mean for accountability for the people who engaged in this kind of conduct? Now, if you go and you read the papers, the deal documents between Elon's new entity and old Twitter, there are, it's dense. There's dozens and dozens and dozens upon dozens of pages. But one question that comes up is it possible to hold the people that were engaged in this bad faith conduct individually accountable for cutting off, in the case of my client, Dr. Bostom, his access to more than 45,000 followers for his content, or anybody else, right, who's using these platforms to support their livelihoods? Is there any accountability? And the answer to that is, in the contracts, the indemnification obligations that Elon Musk's entity has to the old regime are extraordinarily broad. And so if you wanted to sue one of these individuals, what would happen practically is you could sue them, and they're going to send the bill for their attorneys to Elon Musk, who will have to promptly pay them. And ultimately, Mr. Musk would have to pay out damages in the event there was even a judgment.
I wonder if this is why Elon tried to back out of the Twitter purchase. Because at first it was like, I can buy this, I can fix it. And then after reviewing with his lawyers, they're like, you're also going to be liable for all of these lawsuits. Everything you know about what Twitter was doing wrong is correct. And then when you buy it, now it's on you.
And now he's almost blown the whistle on himself and put all this further evidence out there, right, despite the fact that, he would have obligations if
right,
more people sue Twitter in the same way that Berenson's did.
Right. And right, to your point, I mean, that's a truly, I mean, it is, and I know there are people that will criticize Elon Musk, but it is a really extraordinary thing that he would allow that kind of level of transparency into the inner workings of the censorship apparatus.
Yeah, I mean, that the fact that Elon kind of kicked off another level of the conversation when it comes to free speech and what's going on with Twitter and what's wrong with Twitter and all that stuff was huge. And he didn't make, not everything he did and has done with Twitter has been perfect, but certainly it has moved things in the right direction.
Fight the risk to himself.
So this opens up risk to him and his entity, Twitter. Let's talk about the inverse. So are we fucking up by announcing that we're doing this lawsuit, giving them advanced notice? You know what I mean?
Probably.
Like declaring to your enemy, heads up, we will be, coming at you in 1 week's time. Shore up your defenses.
But I mean, what can they really do? This is a whole ecosystem of how this works. It's not. I don't think 1 week is going to do anything at all.
I don't think it's enough time for
I don't
think we already have it written.
I don't think they're going to be able to get any corrective measures through the legislature out there in the next week.
I guess that's the issue with government is like you can scream it, they're too slow to do anything anyway. Like that, it would take too long for a committee hearing to happen on addressing or assessing anything. I wonder though, how are they able to respond quickly to lawsuits in that case? I mean, certainly some state lawyer or whatever has to just immediately start drafting up a defense or something.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Attorney General's office in California will defend the suit as they defended, for example, the medical misinformation statute that was passed and that was enjoined recently.
That was enjoined.
Yeah, it was enjoined. Yes.
That was the one where they said doctors can only say what we tell them to say, right?
That's the thumbnail sketch of it that they.
I'm not really familiar with that. Does anybody know what they're talking about when with doctors having to say only like approved things or something like that? I'm not sure.
That unless they advance a particular narrative, then their medical license could be at risk.
And now that's enjoined.
That is
blocked.
That is blocked. That is enjoined right now.
Were you involved in that or no?
I'm going to be honest. I don't really know what enjoined means. I think because they're talking about the bill that's already in place. Then they're talking about the lawsuit. I mean, obviously, enjoined means put together with, but I'm not really sure where they're coming from. But hopefully they will.
I'm not involved.
That's
in
great though. Fantastic work to whoever.
Some
did
great
that.
work, I believe, by Janine Yoons.
You know what else we
Civil
need
Liberties
is
Foundation.
that the ATF ruling on the, totally as an aside and just as a short derailment, the ATF executive, was it the arbitrary change of policy from the ATF making it illegal to have a pistol brace. Like we are increasingly seeing government just abandon legislation and go straight for we've deemed it to be illegal. Have a nice day.
That is
I think that's something that really started with Obama. That the executive order just handing, or maybe Bush, Bush. But yeah, just being able to just send out, not go through Congress, and just completely circumnavigate the legislative system. It's not been good. It's not been good.
Something that I'm very passionate about because, Tim, to your point, some of the folks that are the most ardent advocates of that approach to governing will talk approvingly about those kinds of measures, and then they'll talk about our democracy. Well, interestingly enough, and not coincidentally, many of these major decisions are not being made by the Democratic branches of government. They're being forced through administrative rulemakings. It's an absolute contradiction to present yourself as some kind of advocate for democracy. And so
I was just gonna say, they're always talking democracy. It's a democratic republic, but the rules for thee, but not for me. So Harley just dropped a little link. There's a little bit more information on the actual bill itself and what's going on. So definitely we can check that out depending on how much time we have. So I'll start that. Or if you want to take a look, just make sure you keep this tab open.
Self-government, when at the same time, unelected bureaucrats within the federal government and at the state level too, and we saw that throughout COVID, announced these unilateral edicts that that bind men and women, businesses, and infringe on our core rights.
People need to just start telling these people, "Fuck off."
Yeah.
Yep.
But the scary thing is, like, there's just too many people who are
afraid.
We see it with the COVID lockdowns. It's easier for them to get on their knees and lick the feet of these bureaucrats than it is to just tell them to screw off.
And I'll tie this even into what's kind of now let me not even go there, but yeah, this notion of you cannot comply your way out of tyranny. You cannot comply your way out of tyranny. And so whenever somebody gets in trouble, canceled for something that's not really that bad, but it's cancelable according to the mob, then they try to step back and they try to appease the mob and they bend the knee and they'll apologize. I'm sorry, I'll never say no. Does it ever work? Does it ever work? Now, all the people who would be open to you saying, hey, I kind of messed up. I didn't necessarily mean that, but, moving on. As opposed to groveling. Now those people have no respect for you. And the people you're groveling to don't care about you. They are just looking for people to victimize. So stand up for yourself. Stand up for yourself and what you believe in.
Well, it's interesting watching Elon kind of navigate the whole hate speech thing because, obviously no one likes it when people are hateful. No one's a fan of hate. And so, when we go into this position, it's like, oh, we're defending misinformation.
Hey, we got help us celebrate Women's History Month with a female lineup. Say, welcome to the party, says the Timcast IRL just got deleted by the user of that channel. What you talk about? Oh, yes. So there, are you talking about the regular one, right? So he said that originally he was going to compress the Timcast and the Timcast News channels into one. So you can see here, He's got the, this is the one up here is the live show, and then right under your comment here is the Timcast news show. So yeah, he did delete it, but he that was something I'd forgotten about. But that's something that was he warned us about. But welcome to the party. Glad you are here. Mr. Zig says, oh, you're saying the live stream ended prematurely. Oh man, yeah, it's only 9 o'clock. What happened? Please let us know. Oh, definitely. Yep. They'll do that. And that's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do here. Harlan says discourse. Oh wait, did we miss something? I hate when the media and especially lawmakers misuse words without understanding their meaning. Misinformation is not intentional, it's accidental. Incriminating misinformation discourages people from discourse and doesn't allow for people to share the correct, or share ideas. Yes, very much so. Yep. That makes sense. Obviously, I can't say that out loud, or the same thing might happen to mine. But that's why I'm not a headline chaser. So glad that is not happening over here. Hopefully they can get things up and running again. I definitely want to hear what they have to say about all that. But right now we are checking out one of the Culture War episodes. Welcome to the party.
Disinformation, hate. No. But we need those terms to be defined and clear. Like you see Elon like showing these graphs of how hate on Twitter has gone down, and he's playing the game.
You know the real definition for misinformation and disinformation is anything not reported by corporate press. If the Washington Post or the New York Times lies, they will use them as the official source. The New York Times could write, "Sky is green." And then if you tweet "the sky is blue," they'll say that's misinformation. Here's our proof. And they will cite the New York Times. But the New York Times is just human beings writing bullshit on computers. There is no reason to believe the New York Times is any more credible than anyone else other than they're a corporate entity worth lots of money. That makes no sense. But that is the standard by which these people operate. It's misinformation and disinformation. We have to stop it. Well, why is it that Breitbart, for instance, has like a low NewsGuard rating, but has broken major stories which are confirmed to be true? The New York Post publishes the Hunter Biden laptop, and they say, "Oh, it's fake news." It's the New York Post.
Is it though? Of course, it wasn't misinformation or disinformation.
So I think it's like the oldest paper in existence now in this country, or one of the oldest at the very least. If it doesn't fall in line with the Democratic establishment and the corporate press, it's disinformation. But if a month later, the New York Times is forced to correct, then it was actually true, but retroactively, didn't matter.
I'm surprised they didn't include the term malinformation. Have you heard that one?
Yeah.
Oh, true but inconvenient information. Malinformation. That's
true
reference.
But inconvenient.
That's literally the definition.
I know.
And you can see in the internal communications in Twitter.
The Twitter files, this is amazing when they were talking about censoring true information that may cause vaccine hesitancy. Like they're outright saying, we have a political outcome we seek and must inhibit the spreading of information that is true because it goes against our agenda.
Or in other words, like I often put it very simply, semantic obfuscation.
That's what they are saying. Incredible. Here we are. Here we are sitting here. And it's frustrating because I know for a fact that if I make a video showing like some,
well, wait a minute. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. Let's not mix up our terms here. But wow, very, very interesting. Again, obviously I cannot say these things out loud, but thank you again for our resident fact checker, Harley, to help us out.
If we had a video of a morbidly obese, purple-haired Twitter employee breaking it down, you'd get 1 million views.
Not
in a room who explains this is a crisis we're facing, and you get 100,000 views. You know what I mean? Like that
you got to dye your hair, dude.
I guess I need to, I have that clean cut appearance, I suppose. But Tim, to your point about mis and disinformation, and I know that this is a sort of a cliche that's out there. It seems that mis and disinformation is, it's just 6 months away from being true information, right? And
facts.
And we see that with the vaccines in particular, right? So my client Alex Berenson was deplatformed, and his fifth strike was for saying, among other things, but the core of what he said was that the vaccines don't stop infection and they don't stop transmission. He said that on August 28th, 2021. When he said it, it was demonstrably true. It was being conceded. CDC they had conceded that it was true, and yet he was deplatformed anyway. And now, of course, it's accepted as gospel truth.
Have you seen that meme where it's like, I need new conspiracy theories because my old ones came true, or all my old ones came true? Yeah, that's why everyone keeps saying Alex Jones was right, and it's like, well, Alex Jones was right on all the things that were based in reality. You know what I mean?
There you go.
Like, there's a lot of stuff he went on Joe Rogan a few years ago and he was talking about fifth dimensional aliens and like chimeras and stuff. And it's like, okay, look, I get it. Epstein, censorship, politics, like Alex Jones has got a pretty good batting average, but then he does a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? But I digress. I'm not here to rag on or compliment Alex, just to point out that it's become apparent that all of these quote unquote conspiracy theories end up being true. And so you have these active tech billionaires, elites, and government actors who are trying to suppress true and correct information. They're not going to win this one.
Not only that, not only will they not win, but by creating the circumstances where there's such a hard push to say, nope, that's a conspiracy, that's disinformation, that's misinformation. Now, even things that were already trusted, people are starting to question, like, wait a minute, if that was a conspiracy, what else is a conspiracy? Yeah, I'm not gonna bring up the pew pewer just because obviously if Timcast got taken down, then I have no chance. But yeah, I definitely agreed with you guys. Yeah.
It's insane to think they can control information. It's like standing in a river, holding your hands up, trying to stop the water. That's what they're doing. But with laws like this, they are calling upon the forces of government to try and build dams on the flow of information, true and correct information.
Can you speak to your time at the FDA a little bit? I wanted to make sure you get that in because explain what that experience was like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can go over it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, so like a lot of.
Hey, we got Dogga Lover in the building. Welcome to the party. We are watching a Culture War episode where Tim Pool and Bill Ottman of Minds are suing the state of California for trampling all over the First Amendment.
Of people, I was sitting on my couch in March of 2020, was working at a large law firm, had a successful commercial practice. 15 days to start the spread happened. My wife and I had 3.
So PSA, for those of you who will probably leave for that, but Brett, the manager of the Timcast members Discord, says, I am told that the members only call and show will still commence at 10 p.m. Please get your questions submitted for the call and request. Just PSA for anybody who is watching that.
3 kids at the time. She was pregnant with our 4th child, and the opportunity presented itself to leave what I was doing and go and serve in the Trump administration. And
I would just assume, when we're talking about disinformation and misinformation and malinformation, just information. True and correct information is information.
And my wife and I thought about it. We prayed about it. Believed that God was calling us to make the sacrifice. I went into the administration. I worked as a deputy general counsel at HHS and worked for the general counsel there. And we did a lot of really amazing things in the time that I was there, the relatively short time that I was there. To go back to the issue of our democracy, one of the things that we did was create a rulemaking that would require all of HHS's various components, including the FDA, to retrospectively review the rules and the regulations that they are foisting upon the American people for various reasons. And if they didn't retrospectively review those and publish an analysis showing that the cost and benefits lined up and show their work to the American people, the regulation would expire automatically. So it was called the sunset rule.
Yeah, I love those.
To be honest, they just talked about malinformation, and I don't even remember what they meant by it. Like, I don't know. They just make up words. They make up words to make sure that no matter what's going on, they have the verbiage to always be right. At least in the argument. They can always win the argument, even though they make no sense at all.
It's called the sunset rule. And the Biden administration, after the new incoming administration came in, they promptly undid it. And by the way, this is a concept, and it's outlined in the rulemaking. It was a concept of retrospective review that has been endorsed by basically every president since Ronald Reagan, to include Barack Obama. So
right. So it's true, but it doesn't help you. Exactly. Thank you. So let's just go. The malinformation is correct and true and factual, but is intentionally conveyed in order to inflict actual harm or cause the imminent threat of or actual harm of a person, organization, or countries. Things like doxing and swatting. Very well said. See, that's why Harley is our resident fact checker. Thank you so much.
So it's not like it's a radical notion, and a lot of states do similar things with respect to sunset rules. But yes, I worked on those kinds of things, on drug pricing initiatives, and at the end of the administration, I was the outgoing chief counsel of the FDA, of the Food and Drug Administration, and I continue to represent clients and businesses and entrepreneurs who are trying to commercialize medical technology, medical devices, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, and so on.
In terms of
go ahead. I was going to say, I'm just thinking about maybe a Friday afternoon wasn't the best day to announce that we're suing the state. You know what I mean? But I'll make sure to bring it back up on Monday, because Friday is where news goes to die.
Yeah.
You know,
what's the process for getting? Is it once a sunset law has been initiated but then overturned, is it easier to get it reinstated later because it existed at once in the past?
Good question.
Well, there's certainly things for the agency to draw on to be able to promulgate a new rule. So just to give the audience a quick synopsis. So when you hear about these regulations that come out, you mentioned the ATF rule, there's a requirement that the agencies give notice to the community through the Federal Register. So they publish a proposal of, this is the regulation that we intend to implement. They explain how it works. They explain the economic and legal and scientific rationale for it. There's an opportunity to comment on it. And then the agency typically has to take in that feedback, incorporate it, and then finalize the rule. And that's what we did in the context of the sunset rule, which was opposed, interestingly enough, by I believe even by some members of industry who didn't want the uncertainty that the rule would require. But to answer your question, if a regulation was sunset, that means that the agency would have to go back to the drawing board, because
I think what they're talking about is something similar to what Crowder just went through. And I mean, the only real other context I've heard sunset clauses is in UFC, but so I'm not really sure because, Crowder was with the Blaze, for a while, and then his contract was up. So I don't know if that was, just part of, just that it was that contract and that contract was up. I'm not really sure about exactly what that means, but they're good at explaining it. So
we saw,
like Harley says, in public policy. Oh, see, love this guy. In public policy, a sunset provision or sunset clause is a measure within a statute, regulation, or other law that provides for the law to cease to be effective after a specified date, unless further legislative action is taken to extend it. Thank you again, Harley.
And what is I don't think it's a radical statement to make, is when agencies promulgate rules that bind the American people, and there are a lot of them that date back to before the internet, for example. I mean, the economy's changed a lot in the last 25 years. And so when you've done economic projections that say that the benefits are X and the costs are Y, and you then look at that through the lens of the current state of 2023, it's not X and Y, it's A and B, and A and B are a lot more than X and Y. And so that's why the retrospective review process is so necessary. But again, I mean,
I hope he goes into an example is what he's talking about. But hey, we got Nick in the building. Welcome to the party. We are going over how Tim Pool and Bill Ottman of Minds are suing the state of California. Welcome to the party. Exactly, Mr. Zig. She is on point. On point.
The agencies would have to go back to the drawing board if the rules were sunset. And again, this is driving toward what Congress already requires under something called the Regulatory Flexibility Act, which Carter signed into law in 1980, which is that these agencies have to do this work, and they aren't doing the work for the most part, or in very rare cases are they doing the work, and the American people are entitled to have them do the work and see the work and analyze the work.
Isn't it crazy that the lockdown was 3 years ago? I'm just totally derailing. I don't know. I was thinking about like you're mentioning it's 3 years when this, and I'm just like, wow.
Even Tim was like glossing over. I'm glad that he's kind of shifting because that was getting a little esoteric. But
3 years ago,
it was
3 years,
and
3 years to flatten the curve.
like a time jump.
My regret is that I wasn't representing clients in litigation from the day they started. A partner of mine at Envisage, actually, Tony Biller, he and I at our prior law firm represented at the very outset. This was very early. This was in early April of 2021. We represented people who wanted to go out into downtown Raleigh and protest the lockdowns. And remember, there was a tweet by the Raleigh Police Department that said protesting is not an essential activity.
Yeah.
And so we represented those protesters. We stood up for free speech. We stood up for the right to protest. And ultimately, the governor of North Carolina caved and allowed the protest to go forward without having but
surrendered his impedance
so that those people could go out on the streets and protest without being threatened with arrest. But
and of course, the word protest gets a little squirrely given the last 3 years. But we got to remember that an actual protest that is merely a protest should have no restrictions on it as long as it remains a protest and doesn't turn into a riot.
Again, my regret in some ways looking back is that I wasn't more aggressive on what happened. And again, let's talk about our democracy.
Hindsight's 2020, man.
Well, it is, but our democracy, let's talk about our democracy for a second. Think about how many of those COVID lockdown measures were never voted on. In my home state of
all of them,
North Carolina, Governor Cooper issued these edicts deciding which businesses could stay open and which businesses had to shutter, which organizations could gather and which couldn't, which were essential, right? So,
but to be fair, I mean, we know that free speech and Second Amendment protests were spreading COVID, and Black Lives Matter protests were actually stopping the spread of COVID because the virus was actually recoiling in fear at the thought of racial equity. So,
and that's science. And that's not just science. That's the science.
I understand why these governors allowed one and not the other. Makes perfect sense.
Well, but remember, the public health community came out and did the about face that it did. And if you remember, I'm sure you do.
There's videos of nurses clapping.
Not much. They were kind of getting into the weeds about the legal stuff, and then they kind of just backed out. So they're now talking about the lockdowns and all of that kind of stuff. Mr. Six says, "I'm going to start using pro-information, pre-information, anti-mation." I love that.
And cheering for the protesters who are marching,
right?
But then also of them holding up signs blocking right-wing protesters who are talking about free speech,
right?
They're like, these people it's a zombie cult,
right? And unfortunately, a lot of people were harmed by it, and my heart goes out to a lot of the ordinary working class people who couldn't work from home.
Yeah, understatement of maybe literally this century that there was harm to these people because of lockdown policies, and
we're dependent on, for example, the restaurant industry to put food on the table for their families.
All that food's spoiled.
I mean, the double standard, the double standard for hate, misinformation, A certain ideology is allowed to physically protest during COVID, but another ideology is not allowed to. Same online. It's like,
hey, we got Alex Pickus in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. We're just going over how Tim Pool and Bill Ottman here are suing the state of California. Welcome to the party.
certain ideology is allowed to be hateful and spread misinformation on social networks. Another ideology is not. I mean, misinformation is permitted on social networks, and we all know the issues. We all know
it calls for violence.
Yeah.
To your point, Bill, can you think of and Tim, I'll ask you this too. Can you think of a single time content has been flagged on Twitter or any of the other social media platforms because somebody said something too flattering about the vaccines that they were, I mean, you've seen them referred to, and I think this is hyperbole, right? But you see the vaccines referred to as a miracle. You see people say that if you take it, you won't get it, right? Those aren't flagged.
Right. I'll tell you the story. The policy, the rule for YouTube, for instance, is you can't discourage.
Hey, we got the Timcast in the building. Welcome. Said hello. Tim Pool just got his current live removed. Yeah, we saw it. Very crazy. So we're not actually talking. This is from the Culture War podcast, and I don't know if they're talking about it on the show, but they are. Him and Bill Ottman are suing the state of California, and that is what they are going over. Welcome to the party.
Encourage people from going to the doctor or encourage treatments like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine. Right. You can't definitively say that they're effective. Not that I think they do. I honestly don't understand why people are so adamant on believing that they do. I think it's tribal. The same way people think it isn't. I'm like, I don't know, man. But here's the funny thing. Casey Neistat, I like the guy. But
those of you already know where this story is going. But if you haven't heard it, very quintessentially exactly what was going on.
He tweets out that he's like, go get vaccinated. And I'm like, isn't giving medical advice a violation of the rules? I respond, no, talk to your doctor if it makes sense for you. And he responds with, that's weird. I didn't talk to my doctor. I went to a drive up and got the vaccine in my car. And my attitude was like, you drove into a parking lot and let a strange man inject your arm with an unknown substance. Are you fucking insane? Go to a doctor, man. And then the people respond to me. They're like, Tim, you're just an idiot. The doctor is just going to take the vaccine anyway. And I was like, then why are you mad? If we agree on this and the doctor should be the one telling you to do it. People were allowed to go on social media and encourage you to go to a 7-Eleven parking lot to let a stranger inject your body. And that was allowed. Yet someone might be like, there's actually a medication that's very famous and well-known called ivermectin. Banned, totally and outright. That is absolutely insane. These people, look, man, I'll say it again. The media tried painting me. Daily Beast called me the poster boy of ivermectin, despite me saying consistently and insistently, I don't think it does anything.
Why wouldn't Rogan be the face of Schmackman? I'm not sure what you're allowed to say or not, but that would make a lot more sense to me. He was very adamant about that. Hey, I didn't even want to take it. My doctor told me to take it.
Even arguing with Joe Rogan, I'm like, I don't know that it does. And Joe was like, it's a protease inhibitor, does this. And I'm like, look, I think it's tribal. I think it's tribal. I'm not saying it doesn't. I just don't know. I'm not a doctor. Yeah. Talk to a doctor. But think about how insane that is. That it is acceptable to walk into a parking lot and have a stranger inject you without knowing your medical history, without knowing your allergies. That should fall under the same medical misinformation policy. But it doesn't. Because these people are a cult. Let me just say it again. For all that are listening, I know it's very difficult. A lot of people are like, Trump supporters are in a cult. Many are. I acknowledge that outright. A lot of these Trump supporters are cultish.
Facts. I completely agree. It is not one group. It is not one ideology. It is people in general taking whatever ideology they believe in and taking it to the umpteenth degree and looking at it with a dogmatic perspective that it cannot be wrong. And one step further than that, not only can they not be wrong, but everybody else who disagrees with them is not only wrong, but they are evil. That is what they think. There's people on the left, there's people on the right, there's people who are religious, there's people who are atheists, there are people who are Harry Potter fans. It goes everywhere. It is dogmatic thinking.
But y'all are in a cult too. And you know how I can tell you definitively? Because you drove into a parking lot where you met a strange man you did not know and let them either stick a Q-tip into your nose or inject your arm with something, and you just said, sounds good to me. Me, I'm like, I'm just gonna go I want to talk to my doctor. My doctor said not to get the vaccine because the concern at the time was I'm young, I'm healthy, and older people need it. So they were like, you're not at risk, you shouldn't get it. Of course, that changed when they went, everyone should get it no matter what. But at that point, I'd gotten sick. We got the monoclonal antibodies and all that stuff. It's just that should be the clearest indicator that this whole thing was political and made no sense.
Absolutely. Harley Rose says, I didn't take it. After the way they had treated me in the past and left me multiple injuries and nearly got me killed, I was not going to trust them. Yeah, I feel the same way. Originally, I had intended to take it, very early on. I was like, oh, I'm not super worried about it, but about, getting it or whatever. But, if they have a cure, which is what it was marketed as, if they have a cure, then, I'll just, when they start doing the, you got to be jabbed to go here, and then it becomes an inconvenience, and I'll just go get it. But then all the propaganda picked up to such a degree that I was like, I don't know what's going on. And not trusting a damn word that they say.
No, I was just going to say, I'm curious if, this censorship industrial complex that Taibbi and Schellenberger are referring to. Do you think that the AB 587 in California, this law that we're talking about,
AB 587, that's the bill.
Do you think that bureaucratic infrastructure that they're trying to create, where basically, private companies have to have this conversation with the state about content moderation, is that related to this censorship industrial complex that was happening in the Twitter files? Well, is it the same infrastructure?
I think if you don't have it right in your platform that's subject to these regulations, you got to build it, right? So right. Otherwise, how are you going to comply? So to your point, I think it certainly makes it puts people in positions within these companies who are.
I'm gonna stop right here because I'm gonna call you celebrate women. We're gonna call you celebrate women. Cannabis can reduce complications, mitigate fibrosis, and that was published January 27th, 2021. Take it away from Rona. I have maintained that I think being a pothead has saved me, or at least boosted my my immune system, because I used to get sick as a kid, not all the time, but like a kid. And then it kind of just stopped as I got older, and other people now and then would get sick, and I just never really got, and I'm like, I wonder if, every time somebody's got the blunt and they pass it to you and they got their saliva all over it, and then you pass it around and it comes around again. And that's got to have something to do with immunity, right? I mean, am I just pulling that out of my ass here? Celebrate Women says a new study out of Canada has found further evidence that certain strains of cannabis could inhibit severe cases of respiratory inflammation known as cytokine storms, one of the most dangerous complications from Rona. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Harley said, mation means operating or performing something with defined outcome or purpose. So anti-mation wouldn't mean you don't operate or perform with defined outcomes or purposes. Interesting. The Camcast says Western University makes it so you need to have 3 booster shots in order to get in.
What?
That is crazy. I mean, it's not surprising that you say that, but that is crazy. It's like, how did we get so far that just experimenting on everyone was an accepted thing? How did we get there? How did we get there? I don't know. All right, let's back this up a little second. Where were we?
Makes it puts people in positions within these companies who are, I would argue, predisposed to censor, because this is their industry. This is what they do. They're
and who's determining the enforcement? So they start finding us $15K a day at some point in the future.
Who are the
we have violations,
gatekeepers?
and who's the board determining these violations?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think practically speaking, the way it would work is you would end up having the attorney general's office would file a complaint against the company and eventually try to sue to collect the I believe again it's $15,000 a day in
Per violation
penalties, and right.
And again, so they said that before, but if you didn't hear it earlier, penalties for what now are things that might already be in the terms of service, but might not be now being enforced by the government. That if something's on Twitter that goes against the bill, not Twitter terms of service, but goes against the bill, and Twitter doesn't take it down, they can get fined $15,000 a day, and I'm assuming that means per tweet that stays up. Like, I'm not sure. I would imagine that, at a certain point, you'd be like, all right, it's 15 grand a day to run a free speech platform. We're just going to have to do it. So if they just did it, like, if there is any, then it's $15,000 today. That wouldn't work. So it has to be $15,000 a day per post, or at least per account.
I think that's the way that it would practically work itself out. But yeah, to your point, to comply with this, folks are going to have to, the platforms, maybe they have the existing infrastructure, maybe they're going to have to hire.
But these portals that exist on Twitter for basic communication with the government for the takedown requests, like, I'm curious if this is still going on Twitter first, because these portals were set up between Facebook and Twitter. Does that still exist at Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, where's Elon?
I can't imagine that they wouldn't exist. I can't imagine that they wouldn't exist, and I can't imagine that these back channels wouldn't be something that are, or that they are something decentralized, so that it's not the average employee at Twitter who has access to the White House or the FBI or something. And despite the fact that Elon bought the company, I mean, I'm just kind of talking out of my ass on this point, but it seems like it is very common that those like the government want to have those back channels open, and then the higher ups who are under Elon but still want those back channels open, I'm sure they're still open.
Is he, like, has anyone asked him about this?
I've tried reaching out, but yeah, I think that.
Well, I sent an email to press@twitter.com to ask them a very serious question. What does Elon Musk eat for breakfast? And they responded with shit. I couldn't believe it. I tweeted that out.
Delicious poop emoji.
I'm like, more people need to throw pies. No, but the story there was that Elon changed the press at Twitter to always just auto reply with poop emojis.
Amazing.
And so I immediately was like, I got you. I'm gonna get you. But no, in all seriousness, where is Elon in terms of whether or not they're still doing this portal? He's not. I don't think he's ever said he deleted it.
No. And I think that it was funny when Dorsey, he's kind of gone dark on Twitter. If you notice, he's like barely posts there anymore.
When's the last time you heard anything from Jack Dorsey? Once he was, I think he was, looking to get out. And as soon as he was out, they pulled him back in for a little bit. But once Elon was the figurehead, he was like, I don't want anything to do with that. Keep it away. Keep it away.
I think he's an evil dude, man.
I mean, he actually called out Elon when the Twitter files were first starting. He was like, you should just publish absolutely everything that exists.
He should.
Including now and in the future for what you're doing now, which was an interesting move on his part to kind of, he tried to see if, he could play chicken with Elon. But, it's understandable why Elon wouldn't publish absolutely everything. But present day Twitter does matter. Apparently they're going to open source the algorithm in a couple of days. So
I know that's really amazing.
Yeah. Is that what Ian's always talking about? Freeing the code? Are they about to free the code? Is Ian finally going to get his dream where they free the code?
Yeah, I think Elon's doing great work. We had Bannon on Timcast IRL, and he said that he thought Elon was a shill for China and all that stuff. And it's just like, come on, man. Like, I've got my criticisms of Elon with China and questions about it, but Elon's doing such good and important work on this end. I don't know what else to say.
What do you mean, Scooby-Doo?
Do good work, get credit where credit is due.
And it takes a long time to turn a ship that's that big.
Yeah.
My main concern is a lot of
like
the
turning
people,
a building.
Like, how many people were banned that don't have audiences? I'm curious if they've been let back on Twitter, because like, you know, a bunch of high profile people have come back. That's great. Tons of progress at Twitter. Obviously, like Elon's doing very good work. But like, what about all the people who just are screwed and they got banned for posting some COVID thing? And
well, that's what Bannon was saying.
Yeah,
there's a lot of patriots that Elon has not let back on the platform.
Right.
I mean, he won't let Alex Jones on the platform for personal bias reasons.
Yeah,
not a good thing. I think Elon's.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a good thing to let Alex Jones back on the platform. I think it's a good thing to make these moves that send a message that we are not just going to be censoring left and right anymore. But absolutely, I think that there should be a what would you call it? I don't even know. But something where they have to go through every single account that is banned, see why it is banned, and is that a legitimate reason for it to be banned, and is there a path for them to come back? That's you know the I think the only way to go. So Scuba Doo said, why understandable? I wasn't sure. Maybe I missed that. But they said they'd be demanding everything be published if Gates had bought Twitter. Elon gets a pass. Well, yeah, because I mean, he doesn't not a pass, but there's a little bit more of a reputation. There's a little bit more of a benefit of the doubt that we can give Elon. Now, it's neck and neck. I mean, they're both just these tech billionaires. So at the end of the day, I'll take Musk over Gates, but a little bit different. Yeah, comprehensible. I would let that. Yeah. You got it. So absolutely, Kathy Griffin should be back on. Absolutely. There's no reason why she should be banned. I mean, the reason she got banned was the head holding thing, right? Yeah, I think she should be on. No problem.
Doing a massive net positive.
Yes.
But there's some things where it's like, come on, bro. You know, I think the issue is that the reality is he has a limit to what he can do. And letting Alex Jones back on would be too much, and it would nuke Twitter because then
advertisers. I mean, probably Apple. I mean,
I disagree when he says advertisers. That is, in my opinion, the boogeyman of big tech. Oh, we got to do it for the advertisers. If everybody is doing the same thing, then the notion of advertisers taking their business elsewhere, if everybody is allowing free speech and just making their terms of service the laws of the country or the state or whatever, with some mild moderation on top of that, then advertisers are still going to want to make their money. Advertisers don't care about naughty words. They care about people who are not going to give them money, not going to use the service which makes them money because of dirty words. So if we create the culture where it's understood that you as the user have to deal with free speech, you can block or mute anybody you like. That's exactly how it works in my Discord server. I think Harley dropped the link a little bit early, but it is also in the description. Join us for the after party. But that's exactly how it is. And we have a couple people in there that, you know, go a little wild and kind of get annoying. But you're allowed to block anybody that you want. That's how Twitter should work. That's how all of these should work.
He went and met with Tim Cook the other day. I would not be surprised at all if they had conversations about like certain limitations and, you know, what was acceptable, because
I just wish
it's, yeah.
I just wish people were not so cowardly.
Here's my recommendation to Elon. He should open $1,000 a month option for people who just want to support Twitter, because, you know, he needs to become not dependent on advertisers. Yeah. He still is.
That's why he's doing Twitter.
That is actually kind of brilliant. Because there's enough people who believe in the idea across the political spectrum that believe that, Twitter in general, but social media by and large is crucial to political discourse and is necessary. And so there's people who have the money and the desire that, you know, it's not going to be everybody that's paying mad money to be on Twitter, but you start a fund and that again lessens the impact that the opinions of what the advertisers have to say. Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's exactly what I was saying before, is that like we're still talking about tech billionaires. So I'm sure like they're nice people, but don't exactly live the same kind of life that we do, and probably don't have the same type of care for the individuals, the smaller, all that kind of stuff. I just think he's better than what was before. What was it? Paragogo Wall or whatever the hell?
Twitter Blue, but it's like $8.
Tiers,
Launch a big tier. Launch a huge tier.
Yeah.
So what we're doing, all of you listening, become a member at timcast.com. Click the join us button. We launched the Discord, where we've got the time-gated lounge. After 6 months, you get access to the VIP room. Then, or $25. Then we've got the Silver Lounge, $25, and the Elite Club, which is $100.
So I'm at the VIP level. It's really cool. I think $100 is a little bit much for me where I am right now. I would, again, just what I was talking about with Twitter, what Bill Ottman was saying. If I had the money, that it didn't hurt my pockets to drop $100 a month just to be in a Discord server, then I absolutely would do that. I believe in the company. I believe in the message. I believe in the work. And so, yes, that's a benefit. But I was a member at Timcast long before this Discord server was around. The Discord server just started this week. So absolutely, there's people who want to help this movement, and they don't know how. They have money, but they don't have a platform. They don't have resources. They don't have connections. And so I think Bill is on point.
And there's a lot of people who are like, $100, that's insane. Who would spend that? And it's like the people who want access to the internal workings of the company, who want to be directly involved with the projects we're working on, beta testing stuff, checking out the video games.
Yes.
These are the people that are supporting us to such a degree that we're involving them in the insider information.
So, shameless plug here. If you want me to be able to get up in the higher levels of Timcast and actually have real effect on the political discussion, I'm going to get there on my own eventually. But if you want to help, you know how.
And if you don't want, then you don't need it. Don't worry about it. The point is, we're thinking like, how can we give more to the people who support us so that they support us more? Like, if there are people who are willing to spend $100 a month to be part of the Elite Club, and it means we get to do better and more work, and they get something of value in return being involved, and we're going to do the physical space at the new coffee shop with like games and stuff like that. Elon Musk needs to make those tiers as well. He's got the Twitter Blue for, what is it, $8 or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I think on iPhone it's like what, 12 or something because the stupid
in-app purchase is stupid.
Yeah, make it
really. Oh, that is that. Chef kiss on that. That it's just a little bit more expensive for iPhone.
Another one. Make Twitter Blue, make Twitter Silver, make Twitter Gold, make Twitter Platinum, and let people and businesses spend more. I said this. There should be a Twitter Premium Elite Business package where it's like $300 a month. I'd sign my company up over instantly if it meant that I could then type in to an account like, here are all my employees. They all instantly get verified. They're part of that network. Here's the thing. We thought about, can we get all of our employees verified? We want them to be using Twitter. We want them on Twitter Blue. Well, how do you do it? Do I make a new account for every person? Do we have them use their business account? What credit card do we use? We need a simplified business plan where I can go in as admin and just say, here's a list of my employees, and then they all instantly get verified. And then later when an employee leaves, I can remove them from the business plan. He needs, I'm like, why?
Yeah, I mean the Twitter Blue thing where you can just pay for the check mark. Like it was cool for like when it first started because people weren't necessarily fully aware. And so like as a brand, I was trying to reach out to people to like bring them on the show and stuff like that. And not having a check mark, you just get lost in the shuffle. Then, you pay for the check mark. Now you're a little bit higher priority. But now everybody's doing it. And then they made the yellow check mark. So the blue check doesn't mean anything except for the fact that you're paying for a blue check.
I mean,
remind me to cancel that.
Maybe he's just got his hands full. I know what it's like to run a company. So do you. There's only so much you can do. Yeah. So I think that's a tremendous opportunity for Twitter to get away from these advertisers. I also just think, to go back to what I said earlier, I don't mean to say Elon's a coward because he's certainly one of the least cowardly people. I'm just like, call their bluff. You know what I mean? Like imagine just every time you're trying to negotiate a business deal, you just back down and take the lowest number. That's what our political system is. At some point, you've got to call them out and be like, I'm willing to bet you will not let this deal fall.
Yep.
So
this was the part that, and I was just before this, I was watching the new episode from the new season, the final season of Succession. Amazing show on HBO Max if you have not seen it. But it's, kind of in the same realm. It's about a family that owns a media conglomerate. And, a lot of it is negotiation and stuff like that. And so I had heard this this morning when I was skimming through to make sure this would be interesting for us. Check this out.
What I do in negotiations, because, and maybe the reason I want this is because this is how I am. I've done business negotiations where it'll be like, I sued someone once, and I'll keep the details very vague. Let's just say the number was $10,000. I went to them and said, I want $10,000. And they said, okay, well, let's negotiate. We'll do 7. I said, now I want 12. And they went, what? We're negotiating. And I'm like, and you're wasting my time. If you don't accept 12, I'm going to 14 next. Now it's 12. And they went, okay, it's 12. It's 12. Because
that's some baller shit. That's some baller shit. I want 10. How about 8? Now it's 12. Now, obviously, that's not going to work in every negotiation. Obviously, you have to have the leverage to be able to do that. But the point is, the public wants Twitter to work properly. There might be little disagreements about how exactly that happens, but people want social media to be a way for us all to come together and talk about these things. So, Elon, you do have the leverage.
I'm like, either that or we go to court. I told you 10. I was being reasonable. And then you came back and tried to waste my time. Now it's 12. If you want to try me again, 14. And if you think that's not good enough, I will see you in court and we'll ask a judge. And then you can spend the money on that. Good luck. Here's the issue. These people all play this game where they're like, you don't want to spend the money in court. Bro, I'm bored. Bring it on, dude. I'll spend the money. I will make it as painful for you as possible. Why don't we have that in business and politics? You get people who go,
why don't we have that in business and politics? I mean, we do have that in business, according to you, but that doesn't seem like a typical thing that people do. I would have to assume that it has a lot to do with that leverage thing, that you're not often in a situation where you have that much leverage. But if you do, take it.
Well, it's not worth the fight. Then what are you doing? What are you doing? Call them out. I'm willing to bet. I think about this in terms of like muggings and crime. That dude who's walking up, what's his end game? I've been in so many countries. I've seen so much of criminal behavior. They want an easy mark. They want to get the cash. They want to get out. Nobody wants to get hurt. We know this about animals. Should you worry about a grizzly bear? If the bear is starving or if you're near its babies? But for the most part, the animal's going to run away from you. Wolf going to run away from you. They're more scared of you than you are of it, unless you threaten it in some way. So if someone comes at me and they're trying to like take something from me, my response is, you've got an option to go find an easier mark, or this will be the most painful experience of your mugging, of any mugging you've ever dealt with, because I will do everything in my power to make sure it hurts. And they're going to be like, I'm gonna find somebody who's going to hand me their phone. I've been in situations. I've experienced this stuff. We need that attitude in politics. I don't even think necessarily Trump had that to a certain degree, but he did have it more than anybody else. I want to see Elon Musk go to Apple and be like, I'm bringing Alex Jones back. You want to ban us? Bring it on. You will see the biggest news story. You will see 300 million angry users. And I'll tell them all, guess what?
That is the leverage. 300 million angry users. That is the leverage.
If you've got a problem with this, Android still allows the app. I think Google would be very happy to hear that they're going to get, hey, let's say 10% of Twitter's user base decides to switch from iPhone to Apple. You willing to lose 30 million iPhone customers? Try me, motherfucker.
That, I did not even think of that. That is crazy. Nick says, why is government the only place that we can't be civil with each other and compromise on issues? Is it the only place? I don't know if it's the only place, but it definitely has to do with the fact that, the government is supposed to work that way. Government is supposed to be a constant battle, constant back and forth. So as much as it sucks that anything governmental is going to take a long time, the point is that that's built in. That's a feature, not a bug. Because we don't want these, as we've seen with all the executive orders that we were talking about just before. We don't want policy changing this way, that way, that way, this way. We want things to go and make sure everybody is on board and this and that. And that's why it took so long for Roe v. Wade and all that to go down, because it went through the proper channels. It went through the proper channels. And now the however many years, what was it? Like 50 years? More than that? I don't even know. And eventually the Supreme Court ruled on it, because that's how government is supposed to work. So that is why, that's another reason, a big reason why the notion of government should be small is because purposely, when the government is doing something, then we know that it's not going to happen quickly. So if we want something to happen quickly, we want something to happen with the context of other people could do it better, then we don't want the government doing it, because it's going to take forever and they have no competition and they can do whatever they want.
And Apple's going to be like, calm down, fine, bring Alex Jones back. We don't want to go to war. The problem is too many people are like unwilling to just lay it down and say, I will burn this whole thing to the ground. And you know what? You may win in the end, but you will be burnt along with us. You want to be, you want your company horribly disfigured and damaged? Fine, you'll survive. Maybe I won't, but are you willing to go to those lengths? I am. I want to see that in politics. I want to see that in business. I'm getting so frustrated with this. I've often said I would never run for office. Now I'm entertaining maybe down the line in 10 years running for office so that I can be the person on the debate stage saying, I will destroy you and everything you hold dear if you play stupid fucking games. And if it means the end of my career, I ain't got nothing to lose anyway, baby. Do you want to go to war? Bring it on. Can we get one?
And that's what we need. We need people who care so much about the message, care so much about the country, care so much about the culture, care so much about the future, that they're willing to put their own well-being, maybe not physical well-being, but their own well-being in front of what is convenient and what is easy and what is fun. And that's what we need. We need people. We need people who are willing to do that. I mean, think about just the founding fathers. Think about the Boston Tea Party. Think about things that are big moments in history. So think about the marches for the civil rights movement. These people were willing to die for something. What are you willing to die for? Tim's new merch. If you mug me, I want to hurt you. I like it. I like it. Anything. Nick says, not the only, just the worst, but love your thank you, brother. Yeah, I definitely hear where you're coming from, though. Makes a lot of sense.
Person to just say that one time.
Yes.
Someone do that.
Yeah. Hey, go. You can find Alex on Minds. I mean, look.
Right there, you go.
You have to.
You're like, I'm doing it.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
you didn't say it the way I did, but you were like, we're gonna let Alex Jones be on Minds.
Of course. I mean, anyway, we don't need to get in. But I did want to bring up Bandcamp a little bit.
Let's talk about Bandcamp
before the end. Yeah.
Because I'll play that game too.
So Bandcamp is a website where you can host music. And some of you who are older might remember Pure Volume before that there was SoundCloud, and then before that there was Pure Volume. It's the same kind of thing where you could just upload music, usually for free with a certain file size. We know that Timcast Music has become a thing. They have their own channel. They did Will of the People. They did a whole bunch of other ones, and I think they have what should we call it? A new song coming out. I forget what it's called, but another one.
Let's people know.
Comment of the night to Scuba Doo. Well played.
The situation, but I mean,
yeah, I fully intend to file litigation against Bandcamp. The store, we released a song today called Bright Eyes. You can find it Timcast Music on YouTube.
I appreciate the answer or the question, but I'm not really sure. So go ahead and skip it. I'm not really sure. Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I don't think they're given 56 minutes. You're using a whole video as YouTube. Come on, man. We trying to do something here. You're showing a 56-minute ad. What? So yeah, definitely skip that. Thank you for asking, though. I really appreciate that.
Admittedly, I think I'm at the point with the music stuff where we put a lot of weight and power behind the first several songs we released. Now we've got to get to the point of just sort of releasing the music and letting the music carry itself. So they'll probably do not as well because they're not going to get the full weight.
Well, quick aside about the music, the idea of him putting out music was never that he was going to be the best musician, but it was about putting out the music to have something that exists to show, hey, these people that all I've ever heard about that Beanie Guy is that he lies about being, a liberal and this and that and da. But here he is just talking about, a song about a girl or something. Create culture.
But I'm going to be promoting the song pretty heavily throughout the next week, and I'm really hoping we can get 4 of 4 on Billboard. So if you want to support us, trashhouserecords.com.
I used to, but then I got all like, what are you talking about? So if I do, I just started doing something for members only. Me and Tyler did a watch along for Love is Blind on Netflix. If anybody else out there, I know there's some of you, guilty pleasure, love those Netflix reality dating shows. That is some members only content. That I'll be getting high. But yeah, mainly it's just because I need to be present. I got a lot going on here. So if I get high, then not only do I not speak as well, but then I'm like, oh. So that's why I got my trusty drink here. And as soon as the company is willing to pay me, then you can see what it is. And yes, that was Betsy Ross. Good call.
For those that don't know, Bandcamp, we had 3 songs on Bandcamp. Those 3 songs charted on Billboard. 3 for 3, 100%, all out of the ballpark. That's not common for musicians. Bandcamp abruptly deleted our account, as well as 5 Times August, Bryson Gray, and a few others. I think Bryson Gray. I know 5 Times August.
In the same time period?
I don't know exactly when.
Mm-hmm.
We've received no notice. We have no idea what's going on. They've refused any and all communication. Now, there are several concerns that I have. 1, do the people who've purchased the song have access to the song? If not,
I didn't even think of that. So yeah, they just got their account deleted and then they've been ghosted. I mean, Bandcamp was cool, but they're doing all this to Timcast music. And I didn't even think about the idea that if people had purchased the song, I would assume that when you purchase a song, you can download the MP3, but maybe that's an option. I don't really listen to music like that, like I used to. Especially not like new music. So I don't really know exactly how Bandcamp works, but I would imagine if you purchase the song, you'll be able to download it. But I don't know that it's for sure that if you bought it, that you did download it. So, I mean, yeah, Bandcamp has been cool. I have a lot of friends who are in bands and stuff and love Bandcamp, but they're just deleting people they don't like based on nothing, then not a great company.
Well, that's a serious infringement on the arrangement I have and they have with their customers. Some people have said they still have access to the song, which brings me to the next problem, copyright infringement. They have terminated our working relationship and my access to revenue for those songs, but they're still distributing that song? Whoa, we got a problem here.
Another lawsuit. If they're making money off your music when you can't make money off your music, that is another lawsuit.
They have my song on their platform that they are distributing without my control or access or say. Well, that can't work, can it? I mean, they're playing my music. I say copyright infringement. And also another major component. I don't know if they're holding money of mine because they have no communication with me. Considering we were doing sales on the platform up until they just abruptly banned us, I can only assume.
That's the worst part. That's the worst part, that they're not, somebody who is topping the Billboard charts. I think they put out 3 songs and all 3 got to the Billboard, and just ghosting them. How is that any way to run a company? So you're saying I can only assume
they have my money until they can release a report and at least email us and say, here's what happened. Here's our breakdown. They haven't done it. So I think they've also violated the rights of the customers. When people were buying a song on Bandcamp, they weren't just getting access to that song. They were getting access to a community around my music. None of our songs broke any rules. None of our songs made direct references. One song was a love song. One song was generic anti-establishment with no references to any person, no hate speech, nothing like that. And one song was a story about a fictional revolution that never mentioned anything violent. And it talked about tearing down statues. That's all. Mm-hmm. They banned us without notice.
That was my favorite one. The first song they put out, Will of the People, it was a little bit more like pop punky. And it was a little bit slow. I like to speed it up to the 1.5 because it gives a little. But that one I really like. The others are a little too posty, like post-hardcore, post-indie rock. Not really my thing. But again, I listened. I didn't buy them, but I listened to them because I want to support the culture. I want to support the company, the Timcast endeavor as a whole.
So I intend to pursue litigation against them. So we can, first of all, I need to know if they have my money.
Yeah, for real.
And I'm assuming they do because I think these people are acting maliciously. I need to know.
Yeah.
We have no access to any of our data.
Obviously, if they're not talking to you, if they're not in communication at all, this is not some random dude. This is a company. So they have to have some infrastructure for customer service or support. And you're Tim Pool. You're not just Joe Schmo. Obviously, they know. Obviously, you've been calling out for the last however many weeks online in front of your however many fans that they did this. Are you getting hungry over there? I know. But that, that they definitely are not just accidentally forgetting.
We have no access to our customers. I don't even know if the person emailing me asking for a refund is a legitimate person because they've taken all of that away from us and given us no access.
What is the
That's another crazy thing, that because they don't have the information through Bandcamp, anybody could just email Timcast and be like, hey, they deleted, I bought your music and now they deleted the thing. Where is my thing? So I either want I need a refund or I want my music. And of course, an MP3 is not the same thing as something that you can as easily stream. So a lot of things that I've been hearing about this Bandcamp thing for weeks, but I didn't really put together how deep it actually was. That's pretty effed up.
Legal strategy with these companies just providing zero notice, or zero communication. Is that calculated?
And
it has to be.
Not just that. I don't have access to the information about who has my music. So I have customers that currently have a license to my song. I don't know who they are, where they are. I don't know what they've spent. I don't know if they have my money. A lack of access to this information puts me in a very difficult position business-wise in dealing with my copyright rights and my obligations to my customers and those holding licenses.
Hey, Harley Rose taking the sponsor spot with the $5 super chat just for Morty. Oh, thank you so much, Morty. We got another one. Let's dance for it. Good boy. Come on. Dance for it. Yeah, good boy. Thank you again, Harley Rose. Yes, Morty is the black guy here, and every single super chat comes with a treat for him because he's just so cute, isn't he? Thank you again, Harley. Oh, what happened? Oh,
this is a problem that confronts so many creators of content. And let's face it, no one's going to Bandcamp or Twitter or Facebook or any of these platforms just because the platforms are interesting. They're going there to see content. They're going there, and these platforms make money because people create content and they put it on and they host it. The problems with respect to this industry, and I was in a debate earlier.
Wait, so you're saying, I mean, he's been talking about this for weeks. Are you saying that he's straight up lying about Bandcamp? That's a strong claim when he's, for not just once, but many times in front of all of his audience saying that. And if he was just bullshitting, that would destroy his credibility. So I would be very, 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 very surprised. I mean, of course it's possible, but I would be very surprised if that were the case.
This week, and I'll reiterate what I said there.
It was in a debate
about this at UNC Law School, is you could not run businesses in any other industry that I'm aware of where you engage in this kind of bait and switch behavior, where, let's just use Twitter because it's an example that I'm most, intimately familiar with, where you say, for example, we're the free speech wing of the free speech party. When Vijaya Gadde says in a blog post in July of 2018, we do not shadow ban. We do not discriminate on the basis of political ideology or viewpoint. When you
don't you know?
You have Jack Dorsey the following month reiterate the same thing on Sean Hannity's show to a national audience. And yet, as the Twitter files have shown, that's exactly what they were engaging in.
I have a question. If you are a
celebrate women, let's I see you're making jokes, and that's totally cool, but let's make sure we're not getting too far there.
Pizza restaurant. Can you
wait a minute. What about a pizza restaurant? What?
If you are a pizza restaurant, can you arbitrarily deny service to anyone for any reason?
Well, I think the answer to that would be no. Those are places of public accommodation, and they go ahead.
Well, the reason I asked, and to clarify, a lot of businesses say we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone, but I have to wonder if a public accommodation opens its doors to the public and says anyone is welcome to come in. You come in, you order a piece of pizza, you quietly sit down, and then they walk up to you and say, "You get out right now." Is that something a public accommodation can just do?
I mean,
I think they might be able to do it.
They could do it, and they'd be at litigation risk. I mean, if they came up to you, particularly if you're a member of a protected class, you might have a claim for race, sex, or a form of protected class discrimination.
All right. Well, let's say a mixed race person comes and sits down at a pizza restaurant, says nothing, insults no one, eats pizza, and then the white owners walk up and say, "You're not welcome to be here. Get out."
Then I think that person would have potentially a viable claim for racial discrimination.
So it sounds like Bandcamp banned me for being a mixed race person.
Well, they're going to say, right? They're going to say that they're not a place of public accommodation. The platforms, and I think there have been efforts.
Well, wait a minute, because I mean, he's definitely being facetious. But if a pizza restaurant can do that, or can't do that, excuse me, then why would a company that is a digital company be allowed to discriminate like that? Now, I'm of the opinion that if you have a private business, you should be able to tell whoever you want to fuck off. I think it's totally fucked up if you don't serve people based on their skin color or their gender and stuff like that. But it's America. You're allowed to be an asshole. So very interesting. Why I'm interested to hear why he is saying this.
To try to loop the platforms in as places of accommodation, but let's get. I mean, but they're also going to say is Section 230 trumps any. Right?
No. Please. Okay. Absolutely.
So remember, Section 230 is the thing that differentiates whether it's a platform or whether it is a publisher. So when you go to read something on the New York Times, it says by the New York Times and the author, and so it's co-signed by the New York Times. So even if a reporter says something, and let's say it slips through the cracks and they lie and nobody caught it, it's still the responsibility of the New York Times because they are the publisher. With Twitter and other social media, because they are simply the platform and you are the user and they are not co-signing what you're saying, then they cannot be held accountable for what is on their platform, which should mean that they also can't as easily censor things, that there should be a very high bar to what they can censor. Again, as I was just saying, it's a private company. They can do whatever they want, but that's how I think it should be. But it seems like the bill, the California bill that they're talking about, kind of even supersedes that and says that, despite the fact that you are a platform and not a publisher, this illegal activity, which is now illegal because of this bill, is on your platform. And that has nothing to do with Section 230. It is illegal. You need to remove it. Interesting.
I absolutely do think that one of the components of the removal was my mixed race status. I mean, the people who put out we watched one of these videos, it's all white people. It's clearly all white. They clearly have an issue with the fact, because I mean, these people, Derek Bell, for instance, has advocated for segregation.
I can't tell if he's being serious. There's no way he legitimately thinks this. Like, it's very obvious. Like, the most controversial part about Tim Pool is not that he's mixed race. It's the things that he says on the internet. I really hope he's like either trying to make a point or just being facetious or something.
Well, mixed race people are clearly at odds with that ideology. So Derek Bell, the critical race theorist, argues that black people were better off with their own economy, which is wrong in my opinion. The critical race theory idea is that before the end of segregation, black people made more money, they provided service for themselves. He thinks that schools should remain segregated, and these people likely share these views. Now, they've said nothing to me, but I think that actually makes sense as to why they actually removed my account. I can't speak for anybody else, but here I am breaking no rules, minding my own business, just some mixed race dude making music, and they delete my account. I think there's a racial component to this, and if they want to argue that they have a Section 230 right to be racist, I would love for them to tell a court and the world that, in fact, it doesn't matter whether or not we're allowed to be.
That's what he's doing. He's creating that trap. I knew he couldn't be thinking that seriously. But now he's creating a situation where, like, wait a minute, is Bandcamp racist? And then if they are, then now they have to say in court that they are racist. 4D chess. I knew he wasn't going to just pull this, well, I'm mixed race and they don't. I knew he wasn't going to be on some bullshit like that. Holly says, the problem is, because social media platforms have not been defined by the court of law what type of space it is, 100%. Therefore, these platforms are not held to the public accommodations or protected class laws. Unfortunately, correct. Yeah, that's platforms. It's right here.
I'll say okay to that. Fine, I guess. If the law allows them to ban me for being mixed race, then I would love for everyone to know that.
That was actually a question, I believe, that the court posed to Twitter during our hearing.
In
Berenson versus Twitter. Like, could you discriminate? Could you kick somebody off on the basis of race? And there wasn't a clear answer.
So you're not wrong that they have been defined as platforms. That's not what she said. She said they haven't determined what type of space it is. So the line is usually that Twitter's the new public square. So the public square in your town is not a publisher or a platform. It is a particular type of public space, and that has rules around it. So because whether it is a platform or a publisher, it has not been defined as Harley is saying here. And so that is where the laws are. Yes, they have determined them to be platforms and not publishers, But that's not what this means. No, that's not what, that's wrong.
From Twitter in that regard.
Bryson Gray's a black man. They banned him. I think we're now seeing a pattern of behavior.
Yeah, I
the rules that if I go out to the park, I can say the N-word over and over and over and over and over again if I wanted. I could say the F slur. I could say all the types of things that I can't say right now. Those rules. If this is a platform, then they should not have the powers of a publisher to say, you can't say this, that, or that, because I'm the one saying it. I have free speech. I have my First Amendment. If you are just a platform, similarly to how the public square has been defined as a public space, there is no authority that can come and tell me to stop saying anything unless it is directly, against the law. Whereas on Twitter, you say the wrong thing that is true and not offensive to anybody, and they can take you down. So that's what we're talking about. They're having their cake and eating it too. They're trying to act as if they are only the platform. So it's just other people are saying, but they're acting as the publisher when they're saying, oh, we can't have this on our platform. That is the point that we're talking about.
I don't know without looking at all the facts, but again, I mean,
they're not going to argue the black man is racist, right? There's no reason to have banned them.
But setting the racial component to the side, just from a pure contract theory perspective, the hypothetical that you present, right? You come in, you're eating your pizza. You've relied on a public representation, a sign on the front of the door that says all are welcome here, right? You walk in, you're enjoying your slice, but mid-bite, you're told to get out. That is there a contract problem there? Yeah, maybe.
I would say so. I think
it's an interesting
a better example would be the pizza argument has a metaphor, has an issue in the scale of monetary value involved. So with this Bandcamp thing, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of customers. So this would be more like I go to a mall and I spend thousands of dollars renting out a space, creating a pizza shop.
So now he owns the pizza. It's more likely that he is owning the pizza shop within the mall as opposed to being a customer at the pizza shop.
Having a bunch of customers come in,
right,
and then one day abruptly, the owner of the mall pulls down the gate, locks it shut, and says, "Get the fuck out." And I'm like, "For what?" And then he has security escort out of the building.
And then, he would have all his, maybe customer, obviously they're not going to allow customers inside, but theoretically, customers that are inside, all of the capital, any money that's there, all of the ingredient, all of this stuff, all of his stuff has just been taken away. And there has been no correspondence as to why. And there has been no correspondence as to where is the money.
I have no access to any of my assets. I have no access to, I don't know who's got my pizza. I don't know.
What does it say when you try to log in?
Nothing. It says this account doesn't exist.
Okay. So what is this strategy
So
I'm
this
trying to
would-
get at of nothing, no communication, no reason? Like, that has to be an intention. Are they
For
trying
all I
not to
know,
have
they're
a
giving
paper
my
trail?
song away for free now.
But like, is it intentionally trying to limit communication because that reduces their exposure in a certain way?
Most companies are going to say a minimal amount, right? I mean,
Sure.
right. I mean, it's just in their,
But I think
it's just
that
in
actually-
their interest to do that.
But it seems like sometimes Twitter will ban people, or old Twitter.
Exactly what we're talking about. If we were in Discord, I would just say it because in the context, that is not offensive, in my opinion, to say that. But even though I am here on my own channel, on a platform, YouTube will still take my channel down. That is why. That is what we were talking about. Welcome to the conversation.
Would ban people just out of nowhere and like it's gone, versus there actually being a strike come through an email. Same with YouTube. Like sometimes people it's just gone. Versus other times.
And then they'll go ahead.
I think the lack of information makes them more at fault, because the mall analogy makes more sense. I don't know where my assets are.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who they've distributed them to. They do not have the copyright on this music to give it to people I am not aware of. We track who has a license to my intellectual property.
Nick's great point here. Obviously, again, I'm not gonna. Y'all can read it, but there's limits on free speech that make sense. And then I don't even necessarily know if this would be illegal. But yeah, you obviously don't do that. You remember the scene from Meet the Parents. Mom.
They have severed that. And for all I know, they're withholding my money. They've not told us. And they're withholding our information as to who they have given this music to. There may be people who do not have a right to have that song. They're distributing it. This is copyright infringement. They're hosting my song on their platform without my consent.
So Mr. Zig is saying that Tim is talking BS regarding Bandcamp. I had to replay what he said. I have been on Bandcamp since 2010. Bandcamp is worldwide. Very easy to manage, straightforward. If stuff got taken, they notify first. So then, okay, you're claiming that Tim has been perpetuating a bald-faced lie about a company that with millions of views across all of the videos, and Bandcamp has said nothing about the fact that this guy is just bashing their company. I'm just saying that does not make sense. Like, if you were Bandcamp, why would you not be like, yo, this motherfucker's talking BS? You have your shit's right here. Exactly.
We got a big problem here.
And is your name still is your name?
Yes.
Tim Pool still? Okay.
So if you go to timcast.bandcamp, it just says let's say like Timcast Chicago or something. But people have told me that when they go into their account, they can see the song, which means they have my copyrighted information on their platform.
So here's the other thing, if all of this is true, it could very easily be just a technical mistake. So then why is there no communication? This has been I don't remember the first time he brought this up, but it was at least 2 weeks ago. At least 2 weeks ago. And he's been talking about this publicly. To millions of people have heard this. That they just ghosted him. They deleted his account. They won't answer him. So millions of people have canceled their Bandcamp accounts and all of that stuff. Why is there no one? Why is there no one coming out to say, hey, actually, that's not what happened? Or, hey, oh, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. We are going to reinstate your thing. Your money is here. Nothing happened. I apologize. That doesn't make sense. I'm not saying, I mean, I don't know. You could be right. I'm just saying, when you hear hooves, think horses, not celebrate women. You gotta chill. Where are we? Yeah, so if they play the song, there must be so again, you're claiming that he is lying, that that either nobody's playing the song or that he is getting money and he's lying about this. Why would he do that? What benefit would that be to anybody? Oh, it says, here's the problem. He's referring to a physical space. Yep. Going back to, yeah. Physical spaces have government regulations and laws when it comes to rights, personal safety, and protected classes. Non-physical places, such as a social media platform, do not have those laws or regulations because they are not a physical space. And those laws currently only apply to physical spaces. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Platform without my consent.
They're trading on your name.
Yes, absolutely. They're monetizing that.
They're
so if they
Bandcamp
wanted to ban it outright, they'd have to eliminate that content from the platform. The reason they didn't, in my opinion.
Bro, you're bugging. You're bugging.
Because then they would have tens of thousands of arbitration and litigation claims against those who use the platform in the first place. They can't be allowed to do this. This is a clear violation of all of the rights of all parties involved.
Well, and look, and again, unfortunately, it's not an isolated case.
Hey, what is good? Indie Film says a new slogan: "Get woke, get sued." I don't know, but with the $10 super chat, thank you so much. We got our boy here. Say thank you to Indie Film. Yay! Thank you so much. And stealing that sponsor spot with that chat. Thank you so much, and welcome to the party. So we were talking about how Tim and Bill Ottman of Minds are suing the state of California because of a law that is trampling on the First Amendment, and now they're kind of getting into a little bit. They've been sidetracked a little bit, but we're talking about how maybe you've heard about how they deleted all his stuff off of Bandcamp, the website that was hosting his music, and they're talking about like why hasn't there been anything. Mr. Zig seems to think that Tim is just lying about it, apparently. But I don't understand why that would be the case. But it's very confusing. You know, we also have another conversation about physical spaces versus non-physical spaces and the rules that apply. And that's why places like Twitter can act like a platform or call themselves a platform and act like a publisher and ban you for whatever they want. How I said, so in order to solve that issue of the physical spaces versus non-physical spaces, they would need to either define them as a physical space, or they would need to change the law to have it apply to physical and non-physical spaces. Correct. Thank you, Harley. And again, thank you to the sponsor of the stream, Indie Film.
I mean, these companies are very powerful, and again, I mean, the general principles that would apply to businesses, and I represent men and women across the country who have to deal with legal issues and claims against their businesses that are in many ways frivolous or without foundation, and yet you've got the reliance interest that you're talking about here, and the investment that you've made in building these brands and others have made on these platforms, having the rug unceremoniously pulled out from under them, in some cases with no explanation whatsoever.
We have tremendous monetary damages in this regard. Tremendous.
Well, and the other thing, I'm glad you brought that up.
Nick's saying, shouldn't all classes be protected equally? So just curious if anybody knows. What protected equally in what context? So, like, if we're going back to the pizza example, if you're going into a pizza place, then yes, there's, well, maybe not. I wouldn't phrase it as that all classes are protected, but yes, there is no class that is not protected. So it's just that there's no class that you can openly discriminate. But again, that those laws don't apply to non-physical spaces, as Harley was telling us. Can I bring that up like that?
The other thing that you'll see is these platforms with their one-sided terms of service will say you're limited. For example, I believe Twitter's terms of service still limit damages to $200 on the basis of any legal claim that you could.
But that can't
make.
stand.
And that would be an argument. You can't. That's right. Unconscionable and should be invalid.
And there have been so many people. People need to understand this about law. For some reason, I think a lot of people think that the law, it's like the judge looks at a piece of paper and goes, whoa, this piece of paper says $200. Sorry. The judge can be like, not only am I going to award you $200,000, bailiff, arrest the defendant. And they're like, what? The judge can do it. The judge can be like, I'm going to be imposing a daily fine of X amount of dollars on you. And you're like, how can the judges have my point is more so that's not necessarily going to happen. It's that judges are human beings with a lot of discretionary power.
Yep.
And so there's like, you ever watched Yellowstone?
Yep.
I have.
In the show.
Somebody, when we're in Discord and I'm on my laptop, remind me to download legally. Remind me to download Yellowstone. I keep meaning to do it and I keep forgetting.
There's spoiler alerts.
Oh, nope. Screw it.
The woman, and again, spoiler alerts. A woman gets arrested for assaulting a cop. She's an activist. She gets a plea agreement from the prosecutor saying you'll get like, a few months and a slap on the wrist, go home. So she agrees to plead guilty. And the judge says, my understanding is the prosecution has offered you a deal. This is what the deal would be in exchange for a guilty plea. And she goes, yes, Your Honor. He goes, do you plead guilty? And she goes, yes, I do. And then he takes his glasses off and goes, okay, I'm sentencing you to 14 years in prison because you've now pled guilty. And she's like, wait, what? And he's like, this agreement means nothing to me. I'm the judge. Done. Bangs the gavel. And she like freaks out and she ends up going to jail for a long time.
I hope that was interesting. I purposely tried to tune out a little bit because I heard, sent to jail, but I hope that you don't need anything from me. I was trying purposely not to listen.
And then she gets out of it.
Well, she gets pardoned a year later.
Yeah.
But the point is this. If Twitter or any other company is like, you can only sue for $200, a judge can just laugh and be like, nice try. End of story.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look, it depends on what state you're litigating in. It depends on what the case law is. It depends on the composition of the appellate court.
Let me also explain something to you. We sell ads.
Yep.
On Timcast.com, on Timcast IRL. These ads are not cheap. Not only do we have a high viewership, we also have a very, very high response rate to our ads, which gives us a premium offering.
Which is totally why, Mr. Zig, they would need to be chasing clout by lying about a company on their own platform, which is predominantly a news platform. That makes sense, right?
In, I would estimate 50 of our videos, I ran sponsor spots for Timcast Music, which is a separate company. Those sponsor spots have a value. Mm-hmm. Or I could just say, we allocated within our company advertising space to promote this music in lieu of selling other sponsor spots. Mm-hmm. That's lost revenue because they've done this. Mm-hmm. And my point is, those videos still exist and will always exist, and I cannot change them where they say, go to bandcamp.com. That means those videos are promoting their website on my platform, and I can't get rid of those unless I take all the videos and delete them all. That was a good faith effort on our part to promote our product on a platform where we've abided by all the rules. Now they are getting free promotion despite abruptly and arbitrarily cutting us off.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it is the question that I asked during the debate on Wednesday.
So, Nick, the problem I think is not that certain groups are getting discriminated against. It's that so many particular groups are getting special treatment. And so there's a disparity in how people are treated, but the bare minimum is met. So, it gets a little muddy there.
What is it that is so special about these platforms that make it so it's inconceivable to so many people that they should be held to the public statements they make with respect to free speech and inclusivity and the rest of their commitments to social justice, or what?
Special treatment is discrimination. I don't necessarily disagree with you, but there is a threshold of what you have to do. So using the pizza example, like, you don't have to give anybody, a free order of garlic knots. You don't have, all you have to do is serve them. So if your friends, you own the pizza shop and your friends come in, and it happens to be just your friends who are white and a black couple or black family or whatever, and they order a pizza and you just give them their pizza, and then your friend comes in and they order a pizza and you give them the side of garlic knots for free. That's not, I wouldn't call that discrimination. Like, technically, you are correct. But that's not really what exactly. That's not really what we're talking about. He says, for example, if you go to a store and they kick you out, they have to provide a probable reason for doing so. On a platform, however, they can kick you out without having to give any reason at all.
Whatever. I mean, it's particularly interesting in the context of California, because California was a leading pioneer in the legal world with respect to innovating doctrines like strict products liability and consumer protection across many different industries. I mean, Justice Roger Traynor on the California Supreme Court was somebody that I was taught in law school to revere for developing these doctrines that kind of tied the hands of large corporations. And yet here we are in 2023, and Traynor was working in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. But many people in the legal world and attorneys are unwilling to apply Traynor's principles to big tech. And the question I asked on Wednesday, and I'll ask it again, is what is so special about big tech? Why did they get in?
And speaking of what's so special about big tech, and bringing up the notion that special treatment is discrimination, making a point, can't disagree there.
In many ways, a pass on the same scrutiny that would apply to somebody that's running a pizza restaurant,
right,
or who is running a lawn care service, right?
Well, and it's bad faith. Because like they're using 230, but 230 actually says that it has to be good faith. And but how do you can't?
It also says it has to be voluntary.
And this brings us back full circle to having a law with where you can do things to curb in extremism and racism, or not racism. What was the other word? But all these vague words that they were using. Now we're talking about the I forgot the word. What did you say?
Has to be good faith.
Good faith. Good faith. What does good faith mean in a legal context? So the point here is that the laws, the terms of service, all the way through, the way that all of this is run is wild west. It's just whatever we feel like, whatever we decide is good faith, whatever we decide is extreme, whatever we decide is this, that, the other. And they can give you, hey, yes, we said we have banned your account because extreme or harmful or hateful or disinformation, whatever. But they are the ones who are dictating that, and they are not always right, and actually are more often very wrong, as we've seen over the last 3 years.
But how do you can't?
It also says it has to be voluntary too. Actions taken voluntarily in good faith. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. I mean, I think that language is very difficult to talk about.
Well, right. And now we know, right? And I cited the case of Dr. Boston. We know that they subjectively, in bad faith, kept him off the platform, even though they internally concluded he had not committed 5 steps.
Well, this is bad faith by Bandcamp.
That's bad faith. It's the same thing with Bandcamp.
Yeah,
right.
If they want to make an argument, so I'll try to avoid bringing anybody else into it. If they want to make an argument,
little things right there, Mr. Sig. I'm trying to avoid bringing other people into it. If you're looking for clout, you drop names all over the place. This just, I'm just, again, I don't know. Neither of us actually know the truth. So we're just going based on what Tim has been saying over the past few weeks. And it just doesn't make sense to me that he would lie about all of this, name this company, name that is worldwide, as you said, lie about it, and then the company not even respond. That doesn't make any sense to me. I was saying legally, they have to give probable cause because otherwise they can't be punished by the law and sued. Platforms, however, are not required to do so. Correct.
That if a creator has music that's offensive, they get banned. They have an argument and say, look, it's disruptive. We don't want hate speech. It violates our rules. None of my songs do that. The 3 songs we had make no direct references to anything. The lyrics in one song are, a general's waking up in the morning calling his soldiers to gun down rebels. It's just like a generic revolution story. One song is, did you know you left me there staying at the heartache in my soul? Completely generic love song. One song is, we follow, we're shadows of the current enterprise, institutions made to control your minds, inside breeding, concocting all the lies. No direct references, no insults, no invective. No way in any way did any of these songs break the rules.
And this is why I was like, when he was talking about, being mixed raced, I was like, bro, you really don't think that's what this is about, right? Like you're just putting that out there because, again, that's another thing that now is put on Bandcamp. Well, Bandcamp, are they racist? Did they delete my account because I'm a mixed race creator? and they only want white creators? Why have they not responded? Where is the response? Oh, I thought I feel like we were talking to me.
They deleted the whole account.
Please don't drop a whole bunch of irrelevant comments here, please.
So there's literally no argument other than it was a political attack against us. I'm wondering if beyond just everything we've stated, if there is just simply put, you cannot terminate contracts abruptly like this. And especially when you add on, like, they'll make the argument they can.
Celebrate women. Please don't make me give you a timeout.
I'll make the argument they are retaining my copyrighted information without the right to do so.
I don't care.
So they're going to have to make a decision of whether or not to reinstate our account or remove this from their platform entirely. But that creates a problem for all the people who've paid for the song, who now will have claims against them for removing something they've paid for. Because I have no access to those people. I have no idea who they are.
Yeah, that's typically not how deplatforming works either. Typically, when something comes down, it comes down for everybody. This is like an odd case.
Well, so either.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So my understanding at first was with the page gone, the music was gone. But we started hearing from people that they still have access to the song, which opens up a whole other can of worms.
Oh, yeah.
They can't have it both ways.
Unique,
they can't ban me from the platform, but keep my music on. That makes no sense.
And your name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Your name up there.
They're now profiting off my likeness while stripping me of my rights to the fees they owe me. So I would argue that for every day, for every minute, my name is on their platform, assuming it is, they are benefiting financially from my name without my permission.
By the way, anyone listening.
And again, Mr. Zig, all of this conversation is now being put out to not only the 68,000 people who have seen this, and the 1.31 million people who are subscribed to this channel, but all of you and the rest of the people who are going to watch the replay. So all of these people now know that Bandcamp is doing this, because Tim is, at least in many circles, a trusted newsman, and they're just not going to say anything. Make that make sense, bro. Make that make sense. Yeah, it's not about whether they're random or not. I mean, it's just like, number one, we're not going to stop the show to read a bunch of comments. Everybody else is trying to watch the show, and then I want to make sure that when you guys comment stuff, I can keep up and have a conversation with you. So if we're just posting stuff that other people said about something else, then you could go on Twitter and do that.
Who does have access to the song, send screenshots,
and if they don't, and if you've lost access, they have now seized from you a licensing right that you've had. I don't think Bandcamp can do this. I think by the nature of their industry, they have created a binding circumstance that cannot be terminated, not without mutual consent.
Yeah, this is a highly unique
There are
case.
3 parties. There's the music buyer, the music exchange, and the individual. We all have rights in this. They cannot just sever the rights of 2 of the parties involved, not without the agreement. I think.
Yeah, because the financial transactions are not as common, where like a product was purchased. Most deplatforming is like, okay, your content was up there, but people hadn't paid for it.
This is really fascinating. I think we're going to need some precedent on this one, because we're entering an interesting area of laws that pertains to the subscription economy.
Right.
We used to buy songs, we own them physically.
So I don't think so. And maybe Mr. Zig has more information on this, but back in the day when I was using like Pure Volume and Pure Volume SoundCloud, you could have your music out. You could have your music out there, and it was basically just it's basically just a social media in the same way that you could post a YouTube video. I don't have any well, I mean, there's the partner program, but before that, there was no contract that I had with anybody. There was just the terms of service that I agreed to, and then once I agreed to it, now I can put my stuff here. Then once becoming part of the partner program, then again they have their terms of service as to what can be 3 days ago. This is from 3 days ago. So, I mean, I guess that's technically some kind of contract, but it's not like they sat down in a room and negotiated and all that stuff. Dagalova says Tim is right what he is speaking about from 3 days ago. Yeah. Businesses ban people all the time and get away with it. Or people ban all the time and get away with it. Is it even getting away? That's a good point. That's a good point. And again, that's why I don't understand why, like, what I'm searching. I'm searching in my mind for whatever reason would he want to put Bandcamp on blast if this wasn't happening to him? Why would he do that? They're a private business. They will state and just ban individuals without getting a reason. Yep. All right. If you want to get technical, yes, terms of service are contract. And so yeah, that would be the contract that they had then. Then he, as long as he followed the rules, which he said he wasn't calling anything out. He was talking about fighting the rebels but it wasn't like specifically political. It wasn't political on one side. It was nothing like that. So if we're gonna call terms of service a contract, then yeah, he did. And again, then he has to Bandcamp then, if they are going to ban you, they have to give the reason. And then they can't keep selling your music. Mr. Zig said, I went into Bandcamp now and searched Tim Pool. So there's 2 remix tracks of his uploaded by somebody called Thumper. Thumper is getting all the pay. What? Thumper, what are you doing? That's interesting. I wonder. That's curious. Why would they be doing that? That's why I'm thinking it could be just some like digital glitch. But then why aren't they responding to him? Maybe eventually they'll make up a reason. I mean, at this point, like if you had just answered originally, then you could just, oh, sorry, it was a mistake. But now it's been weeks. It's been weeks. I don't remember the first time he was talking about, but like I said, it has to be at least 2 weeks. Nick says, complete power, mess that one up. Take 2. Complete power corrupts completely with some. I think with all. But sadly, it is reality. We can control ourselves to some degree, but we don't control much other than our response to our experiences. Very well said. What babe set up? What are you talking about? What you talking about? Yeah, me neither. But either way, I don't understand why there wouldn't be communication. Good one.
If you owned the CD, you didn't own the music. You owned the copy, that one individual copy, and
a physical copy,
a right to have that song in your possession.
And that's why burning CDs, for those of you who are old enough to remember what that means, burning CDs was such a gray area because it was, it ruined the physical media industry, which turns out to be a good thing because streaming is way better. I mean, how many of you had that CD book that was this big? But times they do change, don't they?
No one from Best Buy could go to your house, knock on the door, and say, "Give me that CD." Mm-hmm. The owner of the copyright, Dire Straits, who made the music, couldn't come to you and say, "We're revoking that." They can't do it. You can't even force a refund. That sale happened. Mm-hmm. Yep. But we're now in an interesting period where music is digital and the information persists, which means I do not allow Bandcamp to keep my name on their platform. But that means they got tens of thousands of customers who are going to say, I paid for this music and I own the license to it. Well, I don't give Bandcamp the right to host it. So Bandcamp's going to have to send out a notice to all those people saying, download the song now because we're not allowed to host it. Then those people are going to complain and say, no, I paid for the Bandcamp player with this song on it, not just for the song because you guaranteed me that. This is going to get really interesting. Again, the fact that you could think after all of this that he is just making this up. I mean, Mr. Zig, I'm waiting. What is the thinking behind why you think he's lying? Scooby-Doo, no, I have never taken an IQ test. I maybe like back in the MySpace days, I probably took like one of these free online ones, but I don't know
I don't know how legit those are, but no.
And they're going to rely, as most of these
I
platforms do,
just haven't.
on their terms of service, on which
I don't need to. I just know big brain.
Their attorneys had eyes, and of course, consumers don't have the opportunity to bargain and provide input on, which is why courts.
But that's fine. But I think we're entering a period where the courts must rule on how this will be done, because the platform can't argue we have the right to sell you a product and then deny you that product.
And so this is exactly what Harley was talking about with physical spaces. That these rules are very well defined for physical spaces, but when this is all new territory. So before when he's saying, I think this is going to set precedent, it very well might, unless, like Mr. Zig says, he's completely lying and making all of this up. And then there's going to be a huge lawsuit on the from Bandcamp suing Timcast for what would it be? Not libel, slander. Why would Tim do that? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say publicly, I'm gonna say no. Nah, he's definitely a smart dude. He's definitely a smart dude.
That's a consumer rights violation immediately.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Zig. So, lastly, Bandcamp is for the underground Indian inspiring art. Tim Pool has no reason to be on Bandcamp. The question is, Mr. Zig, why is it that you believe that somebody whose entire reputation is their income, his entire income is based on people trusting what he says, but you're claiming that all of this, they haven't talked about the California lawsuit in like 30 minutes of content time. So you're telling me that you believe that he is continually over and over and over and over lying about a brand. That's the first thing. You're telling me that they're lying. Then you're telling me that they either did respond or there's nothing to respond to. Then you're saying that all of these things about him suing and consumer rights violations and, are they racist and all of that? He's bringing up all of this. Okay. Whether or not that is true, he's not retarded. He's not stupid. He would not blow up his entire company. For what reason?
Yeah, and you make a good...
He did, bro. He literally said multiple times that they've tried to contact him and there has been no response. The word, the prefix re means again or in response to. He did. You are misjudging the situation. I don't understand why you are simping so hard for Bandcamp. I don't get it. We got Splits in the building. Welcome to the party. How are you doing, brother? Yeah, are you talking about things that are actually shaping political discourse in a way that they don't like? Probably not, right?
Point about the first sale doctrine, because that's what you're talking about in the context of copyright. You know, you have the CD, and yeah, I buy a video game, and you know, at Best Buy or a CD, a music CD, and Best Buy isn't going to come and repossess that, right? But we've gone to a completely different model now, like in music and video games and the entertainment industry, where you're renting it. You're licensing it.
Let's put it this way. Let's say there's a big electronic store that sells CDs.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a thing where you can come and hang out and listen to music. Someone goes into the store and they buy my song, and it's in the store. And in order to listen to it, they have to go to that store and press play. The store then says, we will no longer allow you, Tim Pool, for no reason to be in here. We will no longer pay you any fees. We will no longer sell your song, but people are still allowed to come in and listen to it.
That's the equivalent.
And it's like, well, hold on. You can't play my song in your store to make money. Right. People, so understand this. There will be people who are like,
oh, you just write done whenever you're done with that stuff.
I don't like they banned Tim Pool, but it's the only way to access the song now through their platform because I can't buy it anymore. So I'll keep using their platform and buy other music. They're effectively, people will come into the store and be like, I'd go to a different store, but the only place to get the Tim Pool music is here because he's been banned. Like, they're using me to make money.
They don't want to lose those customers, and those customers are.
And yeah, why, Mr. Zig, would you think that Tim Pool wants clout on Bandcamp instead of Bandcamp wanting Tim Pool clout? That would make a lot more sense.
They're going to might keep buying stuff too, and they know that.
They're profiting off of my name and likeness without my permission.
Well, and in your hypo, right? People would be entering into that store, and they might think that you endorse the content, right? There's a
exactly. So what is the reason that they are not responding? What is the reason they deleted his thing? What is the reason this is even a part of the conversation? You have not given me anything that would lend to the fact that they are benefiting at all by having Tim on their thing, deleting his account, and having him tell all the people what Bandcamp is doing. If he's out here lying about them, then why aren't they fixing the record? So let's see. Harley's got the terms of service here. So this is terms of service from Bandcamp. Company does not guarantee that any content or user submissions as defined below will be made available on the site or through the service. Company has no obligation to monitor the site, service, content, or user submissions. However, the company has the right to remove, edit, or modify any content at its sole discretion, including without limitation from any user submissions. Okay, so they can remove anything they want from site or service at any time without notice to you and for any reason, including but not limited to receipt of claims or allegations from third parties or authorities relating to such content, or if the company is concerned at all that you might have violated these reasons, or for no reason at all, and to remove or block any user submissions from the service. So it doesn't sound like he's lying. It just sounds like they put in their terms of service that they could be like this and say, screw off. Okay. I mean, if that's how you want to run a business, I think that is a terrible way to run a business. But that makes a lot more sense now, Mr. Zig, doesn't it? I never said anything about that. I'm asking you a specific question about a specific occurrence. Why would he be talking about this? Clearly, he didn't read what Harley just showed us, because it says in the rules that they can say, fuck off, and we don't have to say anything to you. Again, why you would want to run a business like that, I have no idea. But they apparently, according to their own rules, which he agreed to, they don't need to give him any thing. However, it does say to monitor, can remove, edit, or modify. Okay. User submissions from the site. And then they're giving reasons. But they are still, they haven't removed the content. They haven't removed the content. You can still go on and get the content. Mr. Zig just showed us there's the two Thumper songs. They deleted the songs, but that's I think the crux of it. So Harley, you're definitely right that he should have read the terms of service. I still think it's awful business practice to have somebody as big as Tim that I'm sure it's the third party thing where a bunch of people are like, oh, we hate him. He's an evil right winger, right supremacist, racist, this, that, whatever. I'm sure that's what it was. And they, took his account down, but then they still have the music up. So if they still have the music up, they still have the name, then they're not removing it. They can remove it, but they didn't remove it. So again, I mean, I don't know exactly the specifics on all of that, but what you did say makes a lot of sense in the context that they have put in their terms of service that we can say screw off and we don't have to say a goddamn word to you. So I mean, again, that's bad business, but it is in the What are we talking about here? Nick said, I had in first or second grade because of my crappy reading, I'm going to say. But I found it wasn't a problem. I'm just dyslexic. Don't recall much from the test. The IQ test. Yeah, I would definitely take one. I just don't know. And again, no, I said Tim might be the person that I trust most, but there is not one person on this earth that I trust 100% of the time, including myself. What else have we got here? Dagaleva, I don't know what you are talking about, brother. No information. There you go. Scooby Doo says, I'd estimate at you said it on me. I appreciate that. I don't know if I'm that smart. I think I'm kind of dumb in certain ways, but I'll take it. I'll take it. What else do we got here? I mean, if that's their terms of service, then they didn't do anything illegal. But I still think it's effed up. I think it's screwed up to just do that. And no, he's not that big into. I mean, he's definitely into like listening music. But as far as the production side, it was never about becoming a big music star. It was about creating culture. It was about taking taking over some of the space that has been monopolized by the woke, taking some of the, it's music, it's movies, it's TV, it's internet, it's this, it's everything, taking some more. So he's staked out some claim on the internet of what we're watching right now, but that's one space. So then he wanted to branch out. They want to do movies like the Daily Wire. They want to do a public space have people coming in. They want to do a skate park thing. There's a lot of things that they want to do. And so it's not about the music. It's not about the coffee shop. It's not about that. It's about creating culture. That I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, we got to find out who this Thumper is. What is going on? Who is Thumper? That is the question. No, I mean, I guarantee you there are thousands of people who signed up for Bandcamp specifically to listen to Tim's music, and then when all this happened, they canceled their account. And then there's other people who may have already been on Bandcamp for other reasons, and now that this happened to Tim, despite the fact that it is in their TOS, it's just bad business practice. They will have left. Okay, how so? We'll wait for that
aspect, and that's
let's back this up. Where were we?
They're profiting off of my name and likeness without my permission.
Well, and in your hypo, right? People would be entering into that store, and they might think that you endorse the content, right? There's a aspect, and that's trademark law. The term is consumer confusion. That you endorse or you're affiliated with a entity or a platform that has unceremoniously kept you off and
now again, this is under the premise that the music is still there.
Yes, that is a big part because the terms of service say that they can remove at any time for any reason without notice. But if it's still there, that's under the premise that the music is still there.
Because we don't know. My assumption was it was gone. And I said, all the people who bought the song, I don't have access to it. And then we got some messages saying, no, actually the song is still in my library.
So Harley has more for. I should have separated these. I think this is the first one, right? To enable company to exploit your music pursuant to the above provisions, you hereby grant the company the worldwide non-exclusive royalty-free sub-license and transferable use to distribute, reproduce, copy, and display your trademarks, service marks, slogans, logos, or similar proprietary rights, collectively trademarks, solely in connection with the service or in the marketing, promotion, or advertising of the service, including all forms of marketing, promotion, and advertising materials now known hereafter now known or hereafter created. Yep. I guess you're right. That is terrible. I have no idea why anybody would sign up for that. Hey, we got misanthropic altruist in the building. Welcome to the party, brother. Yeah, that is crazy. So they're just like, yeah, if you sign up for Bandcamp, then we own all of your stuff, and if we just don't like you, then we're gonna say screw off. You agree? Why would you agree to that? That makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, Tim can't be the only one that didn't read the terms of service. So I bet you there's a lot of people who are looking up exactly what you just did and be like, wait a minute, what? I'm not putting another piece of content on this platform. That is crazy. I mean, fair enough.
If that's the case, it's even worse. There's no circumstance where it works.
Let's get evidence of that sent over.
But it doesn't even matter. Let's operate under the assumption they remove.
But again, so we've seen here now that we, the terms of service did allow them to be POSs as they have been, in my personal opinion. But you sign the contract, read the contract before you read the contract before you sign it. But as far as this conversation, let's maintain that that's still a fucked up thing to do, because it's still fucked up. Even if you didn't read it, like, yes, you should have read it, but you didn't read it, and you would assume that they're not going to claim ownership of all of your shit. Let's just understand that that's a reasonable assumption, even though he did fuck up by not reading the thing.
Moved the song from everyone's libraries. So they swindled all these people and stole their money. They took a cut of all that money. I don't know who these people are because they banned us. Right. I don't have access to that customer base anymore.
That's why you should never, ever, 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 ever use Bandcamp.
So if they remove the music, they have convinced people to buy a product, taken a percentage, and then deleted it.
Which you sign the contract say they can do. So do not ever, ever put anything on Bandcamp.
Now that's theft, isn't it? Or is that?
Nope. As Harley just showed us, unfortunately, you gave it away. Harley says, there's a part that also includes all their other works, not just trademarks, but it's too long to post here. Essentially, they have the right to take anything you upload and exploit it. Anything you upload and exploit it. It must have been, I mean, it was hard to get play as a musician in the early 2000s, but it must be horrible now. It must be horrible now if people are willing to sign this kind of contract. That is insane. And of course, again, I don't think that they are willing to. I just think they do it without knowing. MA says, is there any tech company that is not corrupt? Probably not. Is an ethical tech company even viable? I would think so. I don't see why not. They're just a company like any other. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to be viable. You could definitely make a lot more money being a piece of shit. But like, that's what happens when the government comes in and creates a quasi monopoly, is that you can be a dick and there's no competition. The government wins again.
Fraud.
Well, I think the terms are different now with this kind of digital.
Yeah, so it's not fraud because you otherwise it would be fraud. But
leasing of media compared to buying the physical product, like the actual contract has changed.
But if I said, Bill, give me $1 and I'll give you that pen, you say okay, and then I don't give you the pen, then what?
You're right, but that's not what happened. You said, I'm going to give you $1 and you give me that pen. He said, okay, but at any time I can decide to rescind that the pen. That is the situation. 100%, Harley. Hopefully this teaches Tim a lesson to read the TOS next time. And to all of us, actually. To all of us. Maybe just take a minute and read what the fuck it says. That's a lesson to all of us.
Breach of contract, right? But to Bill's point.
Is it a buy button on the Bandcamp page?
Do they know? Is it really doing so much for the indie guys to take all of their original IP and steal it and exploit it any way possible? Never put anything on Bandcamp. Never. You can put it on YouTube and you own it. Why would you not do that? I'm pretty sure, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure if you put stuff on Spotify, you still own it. You license it to them while it's on Spotify, but I'm pretty sure that they don't own your music after that. And I mean, I definitely could be wrong about that. But like I said, if that is the way that the music industry is operating these days, then it got way worse than it ever was. And we have all heard the story. I mean, y'all seen Straight Outta Compton. We all seen how the record companies just dominated the artists. So the fact that we're here now, it must be hard out there for a musician.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you buy.
Breach of contract, right? But to Bill's point,
is it a buy button on the Bandcamp page?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you buy. It's 69 cents for the song, and people could pay whatever they wanted.
Yeah, the word buy matters because there's a difference between buying and renting.
Well,
like on YouTube when you get
what the fuck is my mouth?
Well, and the expectations of consumers too, in terms of what they thought they'd be getting when they clicked buy.
Mm-hmm.
Were they thinking that they were getting they were walking into a virtual record store?
Yeah, so MA says, revenge of the boomer record industry model, they adapted 100%. I don't know why my mouse is acting crazy, so if you see me like all, like, look at this. Look, is this just me? Okay, no, whatever. Okay. Yo, what the hell? Yeah, John, thank you. One time on Bandcamp. I mean, again, if that's the case, then like I said, the music industry is doomed. What Harley just posted, and that's not even the entire TOS. If that's what's being offered, and that is the best offer out there, sell your guitar and buy a computer and a webcam. It's crazy. MA says, Silicon Valley hacked your mouse because you talking smack. What? It might be. Holly says, I feel for Tim. It sucks, but this is why you have to read them. Fortunately, most people don't because they aren't taught or encouraged to. It's sad. Maybe, but I am flabbergasted that this is something that people willingly sign. That's something that people willingly sign up for. That I would never do that. I would never, ever, ever, ever do that. You hear about in streaming, there's deals that, you can be part of this company, but think about the whole Steven Crowder Daily Wire thing. His whole thing was that they at first that Mug Club owned, or excuse me, the Blaze owned Mug Club. So that was a big deal. And then he was, there was the whole thing that happened, and they're talking about ownership and rights and, in perpetuity and wage slave and all of that stuff. So in streaming, they're figuring out that, like, you can't just screw over the streamers because they don't really need us. But apparently musicians are, yeah, you just do it for the vibes, right? And then you hear your song in a commercial and you hear your song in a movie and you're like, wait a minute, I wrote that. And nowhere does it say Mr. Zig. And somebody else is getting paid on your work. I do not know what going tidal means.
And walking out with that proverbial CD, or did they think they were buying, 2 blocks of fine print about a license that's limited?
People
right?
thought they were.
Exactly. I'm just trying to figure out where to put these videos that, if you haven't heard, if you're a fan of Netflix's Love is Blind and other reality stupid dating competition shows, those are my guilty pleasure. And me and Tyler have been recording watch-alongs for Discord members. And I'm trying to figure out where I can post those because I figured that I could post them unlisted on YouTube. But even, even unlisted, they not only, copyright it, but they block it. So I'm looking for another place to put it. But yeah, and I was even thinking of just starting a little website for members content, because everything that we do for members, again, right now it's free to be a member, but it's not always going to be free. So get in there while you can. I would just need a place for these videos to be hosted. So if I could just have the video embedded on a website, I could just, drop a link that says, IndianJesusVideos.com or something where, it would have the members content. But yeah, why would you not do that? It has to be cheaper to build a website and do your own marketing than to give away ownership of everything that you've created. YouTube is astroturfing for all mainstream curated YouTube is astroturfing for an all mainstream curated platform. I think I agree, but I don't really know what you mean here either. Yes. Lesson of the night. Read anything before you sign or agree to it. If you can't understand what it is saying, do not sign it. Have a lawyer clarify it for you. Thank you very much, Harley.
Buying a song and access to my community page because people were commenting and talking about the music. So this is what Bandcamp's value proposition. It's not just you're buying a song. You're getting access to Bandcamp.
To a community.
Right. And they've denied that from people. So let me see what Bandcamp says when you... All
right. Well, here,
I'll pull up a random song.
So let's do this. We've we're...
Actually, it doesn't...
We're getting to the end here, and we have figured out... that, Tim fucked up. Tim fucked up by signing a bad deal. That's the long and short of it. The terms of service are clear as day that they own all of your shit forever, and they can exploit it any way they want. Read the contract before you sign it. Which one do you guys like better? Real quick, this one or just the full screen? That looks a little cleaner, but I like having the, a little bit of. But I don't like the black bars on the side. But I don't know. We'll stay here. Mr. Zig says, yeah, you also have to copyright your tracks. So somebody can rip a track and post it somewhere else, and you can't do anything, and that gets messy. Yep. I mean, I think, to try to understand, I think that is why Bandcamp would take ownership, because then the person who doesn't copyright it, now it's copyrighted under Bandcamp through your name. And so there's some protections there so that somebody else can't, repost your song on Bandcamp as theirs. So I think that's how it would work. But it really, it's crazy. It is crazy that is really how it works. I mean, that is insane. Dogger says, is he allowed to do this? I've been told by multiple sources that he's not. I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe. Maybe. All right, I'm glad it's not just me. But yeah, maybe Thumper is behind all of this. Maybe. I don't know. So I'm just blown away. I'm blown away that the terms of service are that stringent, and that according to Mr. Zig, that's the best deal out there. Why is there not somebody? Why, instead of making music, why not create a better platform for musicians? But again, he would only know that if he read the terms of service, which clearly he didn't. I don't, how is that gonna, like, this arc of Bandcamp, how is that gonna end when he realizes, like, oh, I told them that they could do this and they don't have to say anything? Because now knowing that they put in the terms of service that they don't have to give any kind of notice or say anything at all, eventually it's going to die out. Whereas if they needed a response, now it's like they were talking about, precedents, and now they can, all of that kind of stuff. So knowing what the terms of service actually say make it a lot more understandable on the side of Bandcamp. I'm not saying that it's good business. I think it's bad business, but it's capitalism, baby. If you can get away with it, then get away with it. Yeah, right. I mean, build your own, right? So yeah, I mean, very, very interesting how we started off with something completely different. And we're definitely going to be keeping up with what is going on there. I might not be like reporting on it, but if something big happens, I definitely want to see what's going on with that. But it turns out that the Bandcamp aspect of this was more interesting than anything else. I'm definitely interested in what's going to happen with California and this law and their lawsuit and all of that. But I'm more interested in the fact that it is that difficult to build culture. That's Tim's whole thing, is build culture. We can't just sit around on the internet and complain about things. We have to build culture. And so he created the songs, and he probably just threw them up on the website. And then I would imagine the music producer guy that's in all the vlogs, I would imagine that he set it up. I would imagine that Tim probably didn't even have anything to do with it, like directly, I mean. And once the song was recorded, he's just like, yeah, you do the I mean, how is it not capitalism? If you voluntarily sign a contract that says you now own the rights to all of my intellectual property, that is a voluntary exchange. How is that not capitalism? Tim had every right to say, no, I don't agree to those terms. I am going to build my own thing where I'm not going to take the property from the people who created it. He could have done that. He still can do that, actually. But that's capitalism. That's where competition comes from. So now Mr. Zig said this is the best deal out there for small and indie creators. If that's the case, all you got to do is compete. All you got to do is have a better platform. And trust me, it is not complicated to set up a website that hosts audio. It is not complicated. So, I mean, the guy there was a lawyer. That's kind of what he was doing. I don't know how exactly it's going to play out, but like I said, I do want to follow it, and should be pretty cool. Scuba Doo's got a dip. Thank you so much for partying with us, brother. I really do appreciate you. You have a good one. Daga says, as long as business can offer a legitimate reason for refusing service, and they're applied equally to everyone, there likely won't be a problem. Correct. And because they put it in the contract, I may think it's a terrible thing to do, but Tim signed the contract, or somebody acting in the name of Timcast signed that contract, clicked that box, and said, okay, I agree. Doug goes on to say, as a small business owner, you have the right to refuse service to customers for certain reasons. For example, if people are being disruptive or intoxicated. However, there are limits on when a business can refuse to provide service. Yeah. So, I never uttered the word as intended, did I? I never uttered the words as intended. It is capitalism. It is voluntary. So, there's a lot here, and I think the major theme of the night is make sure you read something before you sign it. If you don't understand, go to a lawyer before you sign it, or don't sign it, or any of those things. So this took a very interesting turn. You never know what's going to happen at an Indian Jesus live party. Thank you so much for partying with me, guys. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you everybody who's been chatting. Especially a big thank you to the sponsor of the stream, Indie Film, with the $10. Thank you also, Dan and Harley, for contributing. Hope you guys had fun, and I hope to see you in the after party. We are headed over there right now. And remember, I am here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Plus, I drop a short video every single day. So make sure you're subscribed. Check it out every day. I use the community tab a lot. Check that out. You definitely there's cool stuff. I'm building a whole thing here, guys. I'm building a whole thing. So thank you so much, guys. You have a fantastic night. I hope you had a good time. Once again, I am your host, Lutch, aka. Oh no, my mouse. Hold on. Okay, I gotta get everything in place. Right. Okay. I have been your host. I'm Lutch, the Indian Jesus. I can't believe that happened. Oh no. No, I'm just kidding. All right, later, guys.